looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Discussion on the agenda. We'll move number 6 probably down ways, and we had talked about meeting with the Fair Society at 10 o'clock. So we'll just move 6 down. All's in favor?
Aye.
Carries. How about our minutes of our November 10th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Right. Any supervisors not seated as committee members? Let's move down to report regarding the other non-financial MOUs.
I think I can just do it here. I think you have in front of you a pack, and what I know Kim has suggested, and I think it makes sense, is just to keep the board or certain committees aware of the types of MOUs that we're agreeing to. And one of my responsibilities through board's direction, policy, or whatever, is to conduct business with the people we work with and establish MOUs. So the staff and I, what we do is when we get an agreement or working toward agreement, we write up a mini contract, so to speak. Some of those agreements are with organizations that we fund. So we take a little more time and make sure that we have, the amounts and how and what the conditions are. And I'll be going over those at the General Government Committee next week. In the budget process, we also discussed those a little bit because we agreed to fund them, and we sometimes discuss what conditions that'll be under and so on. So what I did is I brought some of the MOUs that I think pertain to the county as a whole, that the executive committee, well, there's not a financial arrangement involved in it. It does demonstrate the type of relationships we're trying to have. So in front of you are 6. And I thought they represent kind of really the ones that are of significance that we know about, care about on from time to time. And I thought you might want to know. The first one is Arnell, the shelter, animal shelter. And again, some of these originated years and years and years ago, and they simply get updated with dates and so on. But I thought Arnell is interesting because of the agreement we have with them. Arnell is responsible for that humane treatment of animals, shelter, and so on. What we do is help in the collection of the license fees, and then we turn over those funds to the Arnell Society minus, I think, $2,000, what it states here, and that's for the cost of us dealing with issues and liability or those types of things. So
You keep a figure on how much that is?
we do. The clerk office is responsible for paying those out on a quarterly basis. I think it has ranged the last few years from around $15,000 to $17,000 a year.
How much?
15 to 17,000.
Oh. Yep. Must be about, that's about half or less. Of what the.
I don't know. I don't.
Actually, the township. Correct.
Yeah, the township's collected, but I think it comes through the county, and
I know
we pay.
We give it to the county.
Right. So that is one. NORTAC is one that we've talked about lately. Doug Johnson presented to the General Government Committee. This is the organization that brings together parties responsible for the development, coordination, maintenance, implementation of motorized recreational trails through multiple counties. And they meet, I think it says on here 4 times a year. For some reason, I thought it was just 2 times a year. 2 representatives for each county go, and they talk about common interests. They talk about marketing. They may talk about the coordination of maintenance and so on. resolving issues with other parties. And again, no funds are transferred from the county. I believe, is this the one? Remember, I think this might be the one where the EDC and tourism. No, that's it back. So this isn't it. There are no funds transferred from the county to them. Hence, they only meet a couple of times. Doug Johnson is one representative. We are looking for a second representative. Chris Nelson was our representative. And he is no longer on the board and not involved. Doesn't have to be a board member necessarily, but so Doug Johnson, I talked with Doug Rowdy. And he says, he goes, that seems to be more of a snowmobile. And he goes, I don't snowmobile at all. And he goes, I'm not good at traveling, so I'd rather not. So one name we may want to consider, be up to you, Jay, might be Mike Ninke, who works for Mo, replaced Ben Elfeld, kind of works with the Parks and Trails, or any other supervisor who might be interested.
Does it have to be a staff or supervisor, or can it be someone from our PTAG group?
Doesn't have to be. Well, PTAG's disbanded now.
Well, no,
but
but
it
I'm
could
thinking
be.
about Todd, the ATV guy.
Right.
Remember Todd Miller?
Yeah, I do remember him.
Miller. From Boyd.
Boyd's time.
Boyd's Todd.
Right. It could be, and that, in fact, Doug Johnson, and he's was a PTAG, right? So, but
I
yeah,
could ask him if you want.
so yeah, well, yeah, so I'll leave that to Jay and I, we can discuss, or you all can make recommendations, to Jay. But if there's a supervisor that's interested, great. If not, we'll find somebody who can communicate with the supervisors, any issues or things that come up.
Are you in close communication with them?
Actually, if you go in there today or sometime this week, you could ask him.
Yeah.
But he's mostly ATV. Is this mostly snowmobile?
Well, we want somebody that with,
It's,
he also is mostly snowmobile.
Yeah, this,
Okay. so
it's
he might-
mostly, but I was trying to think, who is the cell phone? For snowmobile. There's a couple different, Quigley is one of them, he's one of the head guys too, I don't know. Just for some paperwork cleanup. On your second page of the NORTAC one.
yeah,
See the pink mark? It's in Burnett County. Not mine. You should put Polk maybe.
I don't see anything. like that.
second page where?
On the
No.
bottom,
Or the cooperative agreement with NORTAC. Then the second page where it says Polk, Burnett County, Wisconsin.
I wonder if,
We copied there, so we just have to sign it.
The Scrivener
Oh.
error.
let me read that. I'll have to, I think that may be just one representative. It may have been the Burnett County person who's the president or the chairman of that or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Because this is for, if you look at, this is for all the counties.
Do we know when the next meeting is?
I don't.
He said it's in January. I thought he said like January 20th in the 20th.
Let's get somebody appointed so they can get a.
Okay,
He
so
comes to every one of our meetings, so he's pretty good.
And is there a description online that I can take? And be able to articulate exactly what they do, or is it, what's my elevator pitch or spiel?
is that who we want, or have we, do you think Mike Ninke? I mean, I'm just thinking that way we've got somebody that works on the staff there.
Good research. If he's interested, that'd be really.
he is, yeah, he is.
Oh, it's like,
He do it, yeah, yeah. 'Cause I think they meet 2 times a year and they,
I think 4 now.
is it for, the last time they met was November, but we got the invite the day before. and
Yeah.
We couldn't swing
It
it,
was like Spooner, wasn't it?
yeah.
I think that's where they meet.
Okay, that sounds good.
I would say that'd be good if it was a parks guy.
So do we want to go with Mike then?
Yeah.
I think that makes.
Hell, yeah. If you will.
Yeah.
I'll give them the news.
The hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This next one. Understanding between Polk County and the Friends of the Gandy Dancer. Again, this is a friends agreement, so to speak, and I'm kind of happy that we have done this because with the, what's happened with the Stour and the kind of the relationship we have with Friends of the Stour. When we submitted that master plan, part of that was included in there was this agreement that we would reach out to stakeholders and ask them if they want to join us in the maintenance and review of the trails and those types of things. The Friends of the Gandy Dancer reached out and said, hey, we'd be in. So this has been written because we both have a shared interest in maintaining the trail for the benefit of our citizens and visitors. And it basically says we want to help one another in identifying opportunities to improve areas where it's been damaged or where we can improve the overall use of the trail. As you can imagine, the Friends of the Gandy wanted it very clear that, hey, we support pedestrian and bicycle use, not motorized use. And so we made it very clear that's okay if that's what your goal is, but we also are looking at feasibility study to say, can other stakeholder groups use this, including equestrian and motorized, the ATVs in the summer, and in that quarter. So we agreed that we may not agree on that, but that we both agree that we want the quality of the trail to remain very high. And so the way this was written is to say, we understand that, but as a county, we have the right, we'll continue to do it. It is our responsibility to maintain the trail. And Mo, is doing this on all of our trails, the Stour Trail. We've had the DNR down there to look at it. They rated what our staff is doing on that trail as above the standard. And we expect that on the Gandy as well. So this is just an agreement where we're going to work together, identify issues on the trail, see if we can continue to make this trail better.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can we add this last whereas? Something in the minute constitutes the modification of the master plan. Can we take that text and put it in all the other free trail, whatever we got, Andy.
Whereas,
Okay, so I'm under recitals,
First page.
first page,
yeah,
last
oh,
recital.
gosh,
Nothing in this MOU, so basically the master plan can be
Yeah.
modified. I think we should put that same sentence in all the other ones. So like, goes in the Stour one, it goes in the cattail one. It says,
You don't want to change this when you just say, hey, I want to put this in other MOU. And, I can look at that. I mean, this part was put there specifically.
I know,
Right.
Right. I get that part. I
Okay,
just was thinking down the road, since it takes us a long time to get our MOUs.
Yeah.
revised.
that might be a very good idea. I'll talk with our counselor about that. Good idea.
how about states on the Stour Trail?
There's
By
litigation, so
including
there
that
isn't gonna be one.
in our MOU.
Yeah, now, that's a possibility. The thing I'll say about the next ones are really with the DNR. But these were when the trails were established and the DNR took them over and then allowed us to use them. So these have kind of been generated through the DNR. But
This is the first time we've written this,
which one?
this one with the.
Friends of the Gandy? Yes,
So
that's
that's.
brand new. Just signed
Template
it a
that we
couple of
might
days.
use for the other, any other one that comes around.
Right.
Okay, so it's the first time.
It can be the template that gets added, that's my whereas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah,
yeah, because that is a new one. that we
Right.
haven't had
You know, these-
before.
And we will.
The ones from the DNR, I don't have a lot of, it's not like we negotiate with them every year and say, what else are we gonna say now? It's kind of, here it is, we stick it in the file and we know about it. When we do change our master plan, we pull it out, and make sure we're in compliance.
Yeah, we always got them to pass it up.
Right.
They will ask.
So- These are just, I think, examples. When I say examples, it's not like we're holding any back. I mean, any agreement we have is like an MOU and any contract we have is like an MOU. And we do it with every organization that's around here. But I think these are some of the more prominent ones that stand out in the public or we hear from. And my plan is, I think at the upcoming board meeting, I'll put on the agenda a brief overview of the different types of MOU we get into, maybe a couple. What we're trying to do, to Amy's point, is because every one of these is written at a different time by a different person and so on, we're trying to come up with some similar format. So when you look at the EDC museum and tourism. They're gonna look basically the same with just some changing in the wording. You know, as far as what they do, so. Trying to make it so that we're more consistent and transparent.
So on these. Just looking at it, so too, we have like a sheet at the end. Just have dates when we do look at it to update it, so we know we've looked at it.
Well, it's interesting. Most of these have a date when they sign, and in there it says it is either a 1 year or a 3 year. Most of them.
Yeah.
Then we have the one with the fair that just didn't have an end date. It just-
End dates. Should we put like a index page at the end and put, okay, now I can write today's date here that we, at least somebody looked at. Oh. You know what I mean? So that if somebody pulls this out 10 years from now. Well, nobody's looked at it since '02.
Good idea.
You know,
Because we should look at these once a year at some point, right?
but if we have an index page on, we would know it. Otherwise, we have to go back to a meeting, and try to find it if we did it or not.
So it's kind of like in the restrooms when it says this is.
You beat me to it.
It did at the other.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good practice to start.
Some of these, like, we would just look at the '02 or what's this, 89. Yeah. So I mean, that's the date we have. We all go back to fight over that year. Well, let's put that we've looked at it.
Like I say, of the thousands that we have, I don't know that we do it on every one, but some of these, like I said, it's. You get into that first one,
Controversial
you
ones.
stick it in the file.
The ones you know that might. But I mean, if it's not in our minutes or something, we'd have to go back to that certain meeting to find out if we ever looked at these.
That would be a lot of work. But what's- Yeah.
So,
Maybe add the important ones to the committee's work plan, so you could look and know that, this month we take a look at, this MOU, that month, a different one, just add it to next year's work plan.
yeah, because I think, didn't Chad have a list? I have a short list, remember?
Not really.
Yeah,
I mean, we
oh, yeah,
did.
quite a list.
Yeah, we did, because when he said, okay, we want to review all of them, we went and looked and said, well, how many thousands do you all want to review?
Yeah.
And so we pulled out a list, we created a list to say, here are 30. Now, that list changes, like the Friends of the Gandy.
Added one.
Yeah, we added one. There are some we may eliminate at some point.
So the next stop for this packet is Gen Gov.
Not this packet. The Gen Gov, I'll have MOUs that represent financial commitments. So the outside agencies that we give money to,
Oh, okay.
that
That's
type of
Or they pay rent.
Okay.
So these are just. Mostly it was from the trails, I think, to know that we could find them.
yeah, and the DNR things, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got this thing memorized, but, we need to know those as we develop the master plans and proposed changes on trails.
Yeah.
And that's where Malia and Joe get involved because, trying to get the DNR to say, yeah, we see this, but we're not going to commit one way or another on some of these things.
Yeah. Should. So. At least it's reviewed somewhere.
Unless there are any other questions, that's all I have on that.
All right, how about the update on the county clerk?
We have let our candidate know that, of our interest in her taking the position. I think, haven't you reached out to her, Joe?
Yes, she has been notified that recommendation will be made to the full board at the next board.
And so at the next board meeting, I don't know if we need to go into closed session or not, but I don't think we do. We'll bring up who you all have nominated and we'll make the recommendation that we extend the appointment to her.
Yeah. Well, we still don't know whether or not.
Right, if all the conditions can be met, that offer will be conditional, that they meet all the requirements. And every expectation is she will.
Well, how did she respond to that? I mean, just
Um,
favorably or unfavorably?
Well, she was excited, but ultimately, the main question was whether she should attend and whether the board would have any questions for her. I said that that wouldn't be a bad idea, so I believe that she intends to attend, and if the board has any follow-up questions, then I think those can be addressed at that.
But the document that, or the understanding you had with her was all the things we talked about, being residency, that thing. Time constraint.
My understanding is that all requirements, the intent is that all requirements are met. That's something.
All right, what are recommendations on proposed update with the Polk County Supervisor's Code of Ethics pertaining to the closed session?
So I believe Joe has copies for the committee of the red line version. And so this is your current code. And it's edited to address the closed session. I also made some other edits. And they were able to be printed in color, right, Joe? So they can see.
Yes, so it'll be, the red line is in red.
Great.
Red lines and red.
Pardon me?
Oh, there was another one in there too that I. What pages it was on that? Pretty much what that one.
So if you look at 6, I added 6B under the fairness and consistency subsection to address the requirement of maintaining confidentiality of closed session information. And then in section 7, I added examples. And I think this was at the request of Supervisor Middleton to provide examples of what might violate that clause, that no supervisor shall directly or indirectly use or seek to use his or her authority or position to control or modify the political activity of another person. And so these are 2 straightforward examples. So if a chair of a committee requires another supervisor to vote in a certain way on a particular matter in exchange for allowing a different topic to be added to the committee's agenda, that would violate that subsection. Another violation would be a supervisor asking an outside organization to support a particular policy initiative in exchange for a promise of a particular vote on a pending matter. So again, those would not be financial violations, which is the majority of the ethics code is about financial issues. But this would be violating that subsection. And then later on, under the powers and duties of the ethics board, I added information about advisory opinions and defined a verified written complaint to be a complaint that rises to the level to show that there's been probable cause to believe that the code was violated, because there was no definition of verified complaint. I know we had a similar discussion in environmental services about verified violations of zoning permits. So this is a similar thing. What do we mean by a verified written complaint? So those are the recommendations that I have. I don't know that it's ripe to take to the full county board, but I believe we did put it on the board's agenda if you wanted to push this forward, or if we wanted to keep using this as a working draft and work on it in other ways as well. So I guess that's up to you as the committee.
Leah,
Yes,
who, new three advisory opinions?
say that again. You cut out there.
Well, advisory opinions, number 3.
Yes.
Formerly. What is it? Can you just say more about what you're trying to get at there?
Sure. So an advisory opinion, like the issue that we had with the previous complaint that was received by the committee. If this just formalizes what I attempted to do, to provide advice and assistance on whether this complaint, outlines something that was actionable by the committee. So this just clarifies or makes it formal, that any supervisor can ask the corp counsel for an advisory opinion on whether a complaint, is something that's actionable.
Okay, I see.
Mhm. And that is something that I saw consistently in other counties' ethics code. Incidentally, also, most of the ethics codes that I reviewed, and I believe I received 5 from various counties that sent them to me on the listserv. Their ethics code applies to both elected officials, appointed officials, and in some circumstances, employees. We separate out ethics for our staff from county board supervisor ethics, but most other counties combine and make it a more global ethics policy or ethics code.
Thank you.
Would this include other elected officials like the sheriff, the clerk?
It would not. And I don't think the county board has any supervisory type authority over those constitutionally elected officers, but you would, if you wanted to have this include coverage of appointed officials. So I am, as the corporation counsel, an appointed official. That would be an example of having that ethics code apply to me outside of the context of just my straight employment with Polk County and my ethics there. Another, when you appoint people to serve on outside boards and committees, their actions then would fall under the ethics code if you wanted to broaden it to be both elected and appointed officials.
Morning.
I think you got it covered good enough.
What we talked about the other day, yeah.
Yeah,
You wouldn't want to see appointed people? I'd like to see appointed people have some ethics to or not.
it's too broad then, myself.
Who would that?
How many
include?
appointments do we have?
Yeah,
Usually,
what are we
I
talking
mean,
about?
Vince, when you appoint people, what does it end up usually? How many people in a
Well-
session? You appoint?
I'm sorry, I missed that question. How many do I appoint?
How many people do you appoint to different committees and stuff? If we included ethics to people that were appointed, would it be a lot of people?
Oh, no, I mean, we've got to a committee, you got HHS,
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustments, you're right. So that's like 5.
I think there's 2 alternates. Yeah.
Well, they certainly know the rules. They all understand the rules of a meeting and what they're supposed to and not supposed to talk about in closed session, correct?
Certainly, but
Somebody explains to them what their responsibilities are on that committee as far as closed session. Prior, right?
We do have, like, for example, the Board of Adjustment, we have Mr. Lau, who's an attorney and understand, who discusses that. We have an important case where Leah was being attendance.
If we haven't had problems with it, I guess it wouldn't matter.
We're not having that's a good practice to get into is that maybe on a yearly basis, we could provide any appointee the fundamental rules of
Open meeting
Yeah,
laws,
I
open
just-
and closed,
I
yeah.
just don't think we can control a citizen.
Could be a packet. They come out of Word.
Should be a little mini agreement that when they
Yeah.
take the position.
Yeah.
They understand the rules of closed session. And what they can and can't say, just a simple, they sign it, they agree, then.
Yeah.
Then
Or a simple document as a code of ethics.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having them sign something because then there's evidence that we've, reviewed it with them. And so if there is some future violation, it kind of gives the county some coverage that, hey, we did our part to educate this member.
I think that's all we need for appointed people myself.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I need a lot. So when we first started this conversation, I and Malia were supposed to put our heads together, and Malia, it fell off my table, my desk, where. And so I have started drafting a couple little things for the ethics, and I will get with Malia. And then she will bring it back again.
Why don't I email to you the Word version of this document?
Okay,
That way, if you wanted to do a red line version of that, we can kind of track it.
so just do my track changes for you.
Sure. Yeah. So then why don't we just add this probably to January or February's executive agenda,
How about,
rather than bringing it to the county board?
yeah, okay.
Is that reasonable? Okay.
Yeah, your number 7 just shut down the federal government as we know it today.
Number 7.
Let me see, number 7.
7 where?
No, under number 7, political activities. You basically just shut down the federal government as we know it today. I mean, that's all those people do is go back and forth.
Yeah.
and
Right.
That,
Oh,
so I
Joe and I
mean,
were-
don't write it such that, we gotta sit on our hands every meeting. we have.
Those clauses are consistent and contained in every ethics code that I reviewed from other counties. But Joe and I did have a conversation very similar to that, the horse trading and, I'll vote for that if you vote for this is something that at the national level is common.
I was on TV every day.
Just a little added humor.
Yeah.
This is being added to the February agenda? Or the January?
Malia, what do you think? Probably depends on me.
I will likely not be in attendance at the January meeting.
Let's say February.
We're considering no February meeting.
The board goes off. Or
The
this,
entire board.
Okay.
oh, everything.
Well, I
Zoning will
don't
shut down.
control over committees.
Yeah.
If it does, it'll just get pushed to March.
It might be March, Malia, so we're good.
Okay.
We can't get the word public shaming in there, it's not gonna matter.
Flying.
Okay.
All right, how about provisional utilization?
The last full board meeting saw a presentation from Scott Good of IT, who talked a little bit about what IT's goals upcoming for the year we're going to be. Also showed you some information about their service level for the county. That was an example of how a department or division might share information, both verbally, but also graphically. And I was just interested in getting your feedback on that and whether you think we're going in the right direction with inviting departments and divisions to take a time slot at county board meetings and provide information to the full board.
We could look at the agenda before we put one on. Because without the IT presentation at the last meeting, we would have been done.
The presentation have gone longer.
No, I don't think the presentation went longer, but that was definitely appropriate to have a presentation. I'm saying we have meetings that can run late,
Yes.
and a presentation kind of doesn't help. It
Right.
really,
That's a good point. I think that's kind of where we've used discretion in the past, where sometimes we say, this is going to be a bear of a meeting. Then I call whoever it is, community services, say, hey, can we ask you guys to hold off for a month or two? So I don't think it has to be every 3 months, we have to bring somebody. It may be 4 months or 2 months or whatever, depending on our schedule.
are we educating the supervisors or the public? Who are we trying to reach?
Supervisors in particular. So it's an opportunity for supervisors that aren't on a particular committee to understand a little bit about the workings of a department or division that sits outside of their sphere. That would be a goal of this. If you have other goals, we can try to accommodate those goals.
Do we have any tracking information on the number of people who move back to watch the YouTube videos? Because I think then we pick up some of the public feeds. We know what that is roughly?
We can
Yeah.
check the number of views, but I'm certainly not managing or reviewing that at this point. I'm not asking you to do that.
Okay, you know?
Maybe like a dozen, if that.
Okay. Any particular meeting or in overall?
So the county board meetings usually get a little more traffic, but if it's a somewhat kind of contentious topic, obviously that'll, like the Blue Route Quarry hearing this summer got more views, but otherwise, yeah, dozen, give or take.
My experience is a good percentage of those views are staff, because there'll be something, and it's like, wait a minute, what was said exactly, and what was that idea? And so one of us will go back and look at it and see what was said.
So our target is the supervisors. Yeah.
I will say this, our capabilities to do the statistical analysis now have increased 100% with the addition of this person. And we're trying to take a deeper look. Many times you all are tasked with proposing policy or decision based on gut feel, based on input from citizens or constituents. And this person can provide you a background of information, or we can provide you now background information on whatever the topic may be. CJCC was one example where we're trying to look at things, and it makes us realize we're accomplishing getting people in programs. Could we do more? But secondly, what's the outcome? Are we getting to the outcomes that we want? And unless you have some type of statistical analysis behind that, you really don't know, other than you hear anecdotal stories.
Would it be helpful if I provided an example of something that's under discussion with a division or department? As another example beyond IT, would that be helpful?
That might be to save some questions, I think, at the full board, because now just in our committees now, environmental services, we have all these amendments coming up and stuff and zoning stuff. So we're gonna get a lot of questions. The address one just went through public safety. If not everybody's on these, there's gonna be a lot of extra questions sometimes. At our meetings, we end up almost rehashing something that we shouldn't do at the board meeting, I think, because that's the business part. So I think there's a lot of people that miss health and human services. If you don't see any of that, we don't even know what's going on until it's an issue. Things like that. I think that's what we have to get, so everybody knows there's an issue in each division or what's happening in each division.
I don't mean to put HHS on the spot, but a conversation yesterday with Tanya was around, would this be useful for her, thinking with her HHS hat on? And she pointed out that the county is engaged with healthcare providers in doing a community health needs assessment, which is basically where we survey as many folks in the county, professionals and citizens, about what they think the health issues are in the county. And that information would very likely go to HHS. Would it be useful for it to also go to the full board? that was a discussion we were having yesterday. Would it be useful for every board member to understand what residents and health professionals are seeing as the key health issues in our county? And it wouldn't just be, a verbal onslaught. Ideally, we'd have some graphical representations to break down the information so you could understand it more readily, and then share it with people in your own communities.
I did time to think that was great.
I don't want to put her on the, I don't want to answer put her on that. It's just, that's one of the things that we were, discussing.
That seems to make a lot of sense, because then it seems like when we have committees that are doing these like state of the state kind of moments in their committees, that giving that summary to the board would be really helpful. I mean, I'd love to have, state of the states of each of these little committees or whatever. I mean, I don't know what the term is.
Good one.
So I think that's a good idea for us to tell the board what the state of our health is in our county.
I've also had conversations with Bob, and he believes that he could utilize slots that take issues that are coming up through ES, make them more broadly understood and known. And again, I don't want to speak for him about what the particular ideas or what his commitments might be, but he's expressed interest in this as well. We've had some discussions about it with folks in public health, public works and public safety as well, about whether this might be useful. We haven't got, I don't have examples. Mo may have right here. You may have some examples of things that you'd like to escalate full board, that are coming out of public works.
We have park openings, closings. Which road is he gonna work on? We get all those questions. It'd be nice to throw some of that out there, I think, with, what's the highways schedule this year? Is Highway W gonna get fixed or not? Or is it backed up? And, a lot of us get those questions, and then we dig around and try to find it. When are the parks open? When are the trails gonna open? When do they close? And so it's a lot of different ones. We're gonna have the address one. These guys are gonna get fun with that one. So that would be a good one to get out too, about the addressing.
That's gonna be one that we should agenda every month.
Yeah, because that's gonna,
That's amazing. It's more complicated than we even understand.
yeah, that's gonna be an exciting one
Finding
too.
more.
But that's some of the things we gotta get out there, because all of a sudden they're gonna say, we never heard this. Why did you do this to us?
Yeah.
Especially the addressing for a trail closing or opening.
And advising them, just talking about addressing. On that issue, as far as going and informing the general public in some manner. It's gonna be very complicated, because people who would change their address have to change their driver. All the complications of a new address, like moving. And, it's gonna be, public is already responding. It's extremely complicated.
We might, maybe straying a bit here from our subject.
Well, he asked us what he wanted.
I know, but we're starting to analyze
Right.
specific subjects that we probably should have. on the
Okay, yeah.
agenda.
Because yesterday we had opening of parking lots, so parks open, close, things like that. When the trail's gonna open, snowmobile. That's a big thing right now with the snow. I think all the committees should kind of hear that and know what. That we all know it's December 12th, they're gonna pack the deal. That's why they're out there. So when the groomers go out, we all don't get a call going, why are they there?
We have a lot of online information about that now. I mean, I know.
It's getting better, yeah.
The trail's gonna open and close.
From the public works perspective, the board funds a lot of projects. And usually just the public works committee gets an update on where they stand. So, I'm sure they get a lot of questions on the park projects and the highway projects and the facility projects. So,
For example, I think we'll have Mo on this month's agenda. Your update on public works would include the building, the Parks and Trails, Clam Falls Dam, and we could talk about the parks and
Parking lots that are open. We had those 13 or 26 projects, 13 that are almost done and stuff like that. I think that's what we have to get out there to show that the county's doing diverse things.
Can you get that in an hour and a half more?
I'll try to hold it to an hour and 15.
We give them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, so is it the consensus that we should continue with
Yes.
the presentations?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And if they get to the point where we don't feel we need them anymore, we'll let you know at that time.
We get overwhelmed, we'll let you know.
All right, how about our work plan? Anything we need to add, track? Get done?
Have it. But, you know, you think about this coming year, one of the things that you all might be involved with to a greater extent is our new priority setting. So I think we're shooting for April now. Bob Kazmierski, who did a fine job with Don and PW Extension last year, or 3 years ago, we'll do that again. You all will set, the whole board will set the priorities. We'll start with a survey. We'll come together and then we'll have a exercise to identify what are the top priorities that you view as important for the next few years.
Pink and yellow sheets.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a dot program or not. It might be. We could, try to mix it up. Maybe we'll use something else, but, it'll be interesting. So, and it's going to be a challenge because, and you think about it, we're talking about housing. Housing needs are different to different people. And General Government Committee has talked about workforce housing. HHS is talking about housing for the unhoused, and so if housing is an issue, that's important, but then, we probably push to say, is there a clearer definition of what type of housing we want to focus on first to help others, to help everybody.
and how will we as supervisors be able to assess that? Like, will we have presentations from people? That's part of the challenge that I find, like, well, we need this, we need workforce, we need this.
I know in HHS, you've been having presentations for a few
Right.
months in a row,
The
and
full board is gonna be up there with. their
how do you
speakers.
get your arms around it?
Right.
It's a tough one. But I think as supervisors, you can kind of represent your district. And I think there'll be, there will have to be those types of discussions in the priority setting. So, and say, what do you mean in housing? And what's the issue?
If you had a better idea also of some of the outside agencies that, and what programs they have available, and a better understanding of the supervisors, which program they, whether it's indigent housing, women housing, no housing, those type of programs, they all have their own little niche and how they approach it too. So if we had a better understanding as supervisors, we would then know how to utilize those programs a little better than doing.
But it's tough, as we see in HHS, depending on who you come present, you get a different definition, a
Right.
different statistic.
Well, they got different programs, they got
Right.
different funding, they got all kinds of different. There's a variety, it's a large variety. Some have certain things that are available to them that's not available to another agency.
Well, Anyway, I don't want to get us off track, but those are, I think in April, the executive committee will be, I think, involved in formalizing the priorities.
So that means the board will set the priority, have the priority discussion in.
I think the way we did it last year is we had a clear break. We had 4 main priorities, and we kind of came back then in May or so and got buy-in from the full board. But I think the executive committee would also be, that's something that would be run past you first.
All right, anything else on our work plan?
The other thing would be, if the fair stuff isn't done, That we'd have to have that.
Yeah, well, that's probably just gonna stay on our agenda, I'm guessing, until we.
That was done. Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. Well, that would be a subject matter that we probably keep on is the fair MOU until we get it done, or
Yeah.
any other subject matters for our next meeting? Anybody who wants to get on the agenda?
Tower, do we need to do anything? Is it just pending? We just.
That's pending.
Update them, okay.
That's, yeah.
Wanna go sit in the court? Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah.
Update if you want, but I mean, the whole board should try to get the update.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, yeah, to get any of the.
All right, if anybody has any subject matter, get it to Vince and get it to somebody and for our next meeting. All right, we're gonna, if we go back to our discussion on the MOU with the Fair Society. Malia, can we go into a closed session so that the committee can talk about it? I mean, we got 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think we certainly can. I think before you go into closed session, Mr. Loso does have copies of the draft that was sent to me yesterday about 4 o'clock from their attorney. In the email from their attorney, he indicated he had not yet even had a discussion with his client about the draft, but he sent it anyway. So I think Joe can, if he's still hiding there in the corner, can pass that out.
Is he at liberty to negotiate on the Fair Society behalf?
In his email, in our email chain after he sent that, because if you recall at the last meeting, we had a discussion of potentially putting a specific negotiation on today's agenda, and he was going to confirm with his client after their election, once he knew who the new board members were, and make sure that today's date would work. And
I believe he assured us they would be here.
yeah, and he didn't again let us know anything until yesterday, but he did yesterday said he'll make sure his client is here. I don't know what that means. But I presume that Janice and other board members will be with him when he gets there today.
Who's the new board of the fair?
My understanding is there was no turnover, but there have been more resignations.
Okay.
So
What do we need to do in open session?
I think, read through and maybe we can see if there's any questions that I can answer about the draft that he sent. Again, I don't know what value there is in it because his client hasn't approved this draft, so I'm not sure exactly what value there is, but at least it's the attorney's attempt at putting down what he believes his clients would prefer in writing.
It'd be confusing to us.
Malia,
Yes.
agreement that we're looking at, our text that they've inserted stuff in it. Like, I'd love it if there was track changes.
Yeah.
Or just a completely
You got a
redraft.
new one, Joe? Do we have it?
Yeah, you just handed it out.
It's in the
That is
bottom
it.
of the,
Second last year. That's-
Oh, right here we got it.
I
Perfect.
thought this was the original. This is.
so is there anything is there stuff in here that you can help us? Like on page 1, section whatever, 2, how, I mean, in 2 seconds, how we can do this thing and have an opinion?
Well, I guess the easiest way to answer that question is they want to keep things more status quo, where they have all of the authority over the property and they maintain and keep all of the profits, and the county is, the benefactor, and we're the ones providing the funding and building the grandstand and doing all of those things. They're really, if the decision were up to me, I think this is a non-starter. I had indicated to their attorney that it was my recommendation that if Janice remained, and, this obviously isn't confidential or closed session worthy, because this is what I told their attorney. If Janice remained, it would be very difficult going forward because there's been such a breakdown in the county's ability to work with the fair board when it comes to simple things like repairs and access to buildings, and which creates a liability for the county. If there's damage to property, if there's an injury, and it wasn't, the property wasn't secured correctly, and it's our property, that's a concern.
And not going into closed session, can you give us any input, Paul? Did you have any time to read them?
Yeah, I did go through it, a couple of things that stood out to me is, go to page 3, under ownership article, 2.4 says they have exclusive use of possession of the fairgrounds. Next line says they have exclusive management and control of the fairgrounds. 210 points to they have the responsibility for developing the standards and contract for rental fees and schedules for the use of our buildings. 211 says they are entitled to any profits receiving from the same, not the county. If you go to Article 3, Section 2, if things aren't approved by myself, then they go to the executive committee for rebuttal. 3.3 talks about money as requested has to be paid directly to the society for any expenditure. Failure to do so within 30 days. The county is on the liability plus 12% for attorney fees and interest accrued at 12%. Nothing in this 3.5 is nothing in this agreement limits the society from making ordinary and repair to the fairgrounds without consulting the county. They don't have to let us know. 4.1 says the county will ensure the facility and the grounds are adequate at all times for the society's needs and requirements. Doesn't listen what those requirements are, or if they just say, I want a new paved parking lot that's not adequate, that we have to do that. 4.2, new facility and fairgrounds we built by the county. And then it gets back into 4.3 is the society wants to meet with the executive committee, not public works, to discuss capital improvement plans. And the county in 4.4 shall ensure the capital plan and developed by the society and Polk County Executive Committee is fully funded, and the failure, if not to pay, comes back to the 12% fee and interest. If that's not done, no changes can be made to the fairgrounds or facilities without the fair. New facilities constructed on 4.6, new facilities constructed by the society as it sees fit on the fairgrounds. This is kind of different on 4.8. The society is responsible for any necessary state federal permits for construction of new facilities on the fairgrounds, versus the owner having the responsibility to do the permits on there. Kind of an odd statement. They do say in 4.9, the society will collect a county user fee to be determined once the new grandstand facility is operational. And 5.5 on page 6. The county or the society shall cooperate and communicate with all county governments. That just says go both ways. Miscellaneous ones in Article 6. 6.3, I'll list to. It says the county acknowledges and the obligation to construct a new grandstand for the society and undertakes to do so and have the grandstand completed on or before January 1st of 2023. It's a really tight schedule there.
3 weeks, that's all. That'd be bad.
6.6 says if the society substantially breaches this agreement, the county remedies shall include requiring the society to purchase the fairgrounds for $1. So if the fair doesn't do anything, we just give it to them for $1. So once that's on there, they also have that same clause in 6.7 that the society shall have a local and permanent option to purchase the fairgrounds from the county for $1. At which the time I'll do that, it kind of says that they'll come up to us and just say, hey, we want the fair for $1, and you hand it over. Either party breaches agreement, be given a reasonable amount of time to do the breach. That's pretty much what I found just reading through it for the first time. A lot of time to digress it here. I don't know if I missed anything, Joe, that
6-1, that they want to backdate it to January 1st, 2022.
My guess is that most of those, probably the 2022 there and the 2023, January 1st, I think those are scripters.
Yes.
Leah, you had drawn up an agreement, and sent it to them, right?
Right. And it had, I believe we had and Mo, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been years now. A per, like $1 or some type of per entry, not to the grandstand event, but to the fair, to try to repay the county for the cost of the grandstand. It had that the fair had sole and exclusive use during the fair and at other times, but then there was a joint use of the grounds for various reasons where the county could have events or lease it out. And that they had to have their request to us during the budget cycle, show us their business plan. But this draft that they have is really an all or nothing. I mean, the political question at this point is there any way forward? Because I don't see, we're so far apart as far as the asks. There's no, I don't see a middle ground that we can get to, but I guess that's for them to tell us. But what direction you guys want to do? When Tracy became the treasurer for the fair, they had less than $100,000. They have over $600,000 now. So the county has continued to provide money and financial support every year, and yet they have, increased their savings by 600%.
Well, the agreement you drew up that you forwarded to them, I was hoping that we could have that side by side with this agreement and go through. But they've added obviously a lot of paragraphs here.
What I could do, if they're both in Word, I can run a compare and see if it'll produce a red line version, but I think they're so divergent that might not be helpful. And I do apologize. My intention was to be there in person today. And circumstances beyond my control, I'm not able to be there. But you're right, having them side by side, especially if we're going to be negotiating. But, this coming in from him at 4 o'clock yesterday did not leave me or staff much time.
Well, yeah, this seems like it's so far off the base that it's not even ready for the committee. I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's discussion that the lawyer
policy.
Yeah,
Because it says the fairground shall belong to the county. Facilities belong to the county.
there's
Then
so
if the
much-
county's the owner, we have to go by our policy, purchasing, all these things. But then they say we have to, society's consent to do anything. Who the hell are they? They're not the owner.
Right,
Yeah.
I think they want all of the benefit and none of the risk.
don't even
You
feel
gotta
like
look at reality here. This is like having another kid. I just keep giving them money and they do whatever they want with it. And then just do it, wreck it, do it. What if they wreck the place? What do we have? But nothing. There's nothing to say that. They have exclusive use and possession of our property, the county's property.
And that creates a level of liability and risk for the county that I think is untenable, especially given, what we've experienced recently with their, improper repairs, not allowing access. It's one giant ball of risk for the county if we were to acquiesce to their requests.
So weren't we supposed to be coming? I felt like, okay, last August, we were all met. We were supposedly kind of close. Staff was gonna talk to their attorney and we were gonna kind of move it down the road a little bit. And now we've backslid, it feels like, and it just feels like there's so much work that the staff needs to do with their attorney to even get it to a level that the committee should be looking at.
And not only that, but the attorney hasn't even spoke to his client. He
Right,
just
in the
came up-
interim.
And we got this like 12 hours ago. I believe we got it 12 hours ago. We got it 30 minutes.
The two things in here that they did do something, and that is one, they said that we have the right to collect a user fee. What that is, I don't know, and it's only for grandstand. The other thing that was big to me was giving the sheriff final authority on weather, on England weather. Because I've told you before, the last time when that tornado was headed,
Dude,
they said, oh, let's finish the race. And
that was.
we were lucky.
They're conceding to something that they have no control over.
Right.
Big deal.
Well, because
Mr.
last time
Chair,
continued the race.
pardon the interruption. I just received a text message that Justin is on Zoom and he is muted. He is affiliated with the Fair Board and he wanted to speak. Obviously, he's not a member of this committee. That would be at your discretion, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to let you know that he is on the line and would like to speak.
Well, we might as well have somebody talk. Put them on.
I think is Claire in there and able to unmute him?
Oh,
He's working on it.
Okay.
All right, can you guys hear me?
yeah, Justin, say, have you been listening?
Yeah, I have. And I'm sorry, I'm home with a sick kid today, so that's why I'm not in person, but I don't disagree with anything you guys had just stated. Is the Fair Board out in the hallway?
Oh, nobody.
They should be there because they were supposed to be there at 8:30.
Oh, we
10.
had talked about 10 because the attorney couldn't make it till 10.
Well, it wasn't super clear, and again, Malia, I don't disagree with you getting the stuff, till late yesterday, and I know we had a call last night and went through a bunch of this stuff, and Mo, everything that you pointed out, I pointed out last night, that it has to be more of a partnership, so I don't know, I mean, honestly, the draft that you have is not ready for you, and I don't disagree with any of that, so, and I do believe it is in the best interest that the Fair Society does want to work with you. The other thing that was brought up early on in the meeting about working with certain personnel, that was never discussed at the annual meeting. And so I'm not quite sure how to handle that moving forward.
Well, neither are we.
Like personnel group, that like the agreement that, for example, they didn't want Mr. Nelson, myself, Leah, or whoever involved. Is that what you mean, Justin?
Yes, sir.
And then wasn't it also the fact that Janice and some others weren't going to be involved?
Correct. It was Malia's comments earlier in the meeting here, just a few minutes ago, that there was no response to that correspondence.
Well, now, what's this is the one that.
That's the one that
Original.
them last.
So we're just
You know they're
looking at
up
another one, a version of the original one. So that's what we're doing right now. It's shuffling around.
You're right. I hope that. Just so you know.
All right, Justin, there are some members of the Fair Society here, but the attorney isn't here. So we're not gonna go into any negotiations. I mean, unless they're not gonna bring an attorney in.
Not coming at all.
Well, we had talked about 10,
Yeah.
but
Got 20 minutes.
Nobody's heard from him.
his time, his 20 minutes. Yeah, we agreed 10 o'clock, but there are members of the Fair Society here. I don't know if, I mean, more than welcome to come in the room. This is an open session meeting right now.
Justin, can I get your last name, please?
Wood, WOOD.
So Justin, are you on the Fair Board?
I am not on the fair board. I am a member of the society. I know a fair amount of the history of everything from the past.
I don't know a lot, only back to 2006. That's all I'm aware of.
I know less now than ever.
You're forgetting.
Malia, what, do you want us to just break till 10 or what do you want us to do?
Well, that could give the committee members some time to read through the drafts themselves. It might not be a unreasonable use of your time, so I'm okay with that.
And we are not to be dealing with the Fair Society on our own without their attorney, is that still the case?
Well, under the ethical rules, you know, Joe and I would be prohibited from communicating with a represented party. That doesn't necessarily go to you, but I would suggest, given that we know they're, unless they say they want to come talk to you without their attorney and they make that move, I don't think the committee should, you know, initiate that conversation.
That almost falls under our first thing we did today,
Yeah.
the code of ethics. It's a gray area, but we were told not to.
Well, yeah.
So how do we?
Are you guys from the Fair Society?
We are, and we are available if you would like to speak with us. We are more than happy to come and talk with you. There are things that probably need to be talked about between the two of us, our committees. So, you know, if you'd like to wait till 10, that's fine. Obviously, our attorney is not here, but there are things that we can talk about without them present. If you'd like to talk to us, we're out here.
Well, if you guys would like to talk, we're right here. Come on in and.
Huh?
What's the worst that could happen?
There isn't any words.
Break myself. Can be excused from that.
No. Yeah.
I'm gonna join.
Would you like your?
There's a chair.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. You got the whole table taken over there?
Can I get everybody's name?
Spread out, yeah.
My name is Chad, CHAD, Lutsey, LUTSEY. Without being rude and eavesdropping, there,
Sure. Okay. Well, we're just a couple of our committee members had to.
yes, go take a break. It's been a long morning. Don't put a lot of stock in this. There has not been time for us to review it. We had a Zoom meeting last night, 6:30 to 8:30 or whatever it was. So we are just looking at this as well. There are things in here that we don't agree with. So I think it's important to approach this together.
as, I would like to work with you guys on this. This I don't think is amenable to either of us. And, so if you've got questions, please ask. I mean, just, let's go through this and talk about it together. Because there's stuff in here that doesn't work for either of us. And, having asked for this to be presented to us a week ago and getting it yesterday at 2:00 doesn't work. I mean, this is a big thing and it's an important thing and we need to talk about it together. And assuming that this is everything that we want and nothing we don't, I think is ill-informed. And assuming that everything that you want is incorporated in here, obviously you guys didn't get a chance to look at it until 20 minutes ago. So,
Are you expecting your attorney to be here?
yes.
And are we expecting to negotiate today? You guys expecting to negotiate today or that we're gonna reach some middle ground? And are you guys even ready?
I would like to think that we can talk about this as adults and come to some, if not understanding, at least get an idea of where we're headed together. No, we are not going to sign anything today and you're not prepared. I'm not prepared. But I think there are things that could be looked at and at least get an idea of where we're headed. Perhaps that's foolish on my part, but I'd like to think that we can work together. I don't know.
You definitely can. We've been actually trying for a while to reach you guys and sit down and come to something that society can deal with, the county can deal with.
That has been the full intent of our group for the last 2 years. Somehow this got sidetracked, but we would prefer to sit down and go through this and come up with something that works for both parties to be able to.
Well, I think we got sidetracked when the attorney came. We kind of were told we couldn't talk. Told me through the attorney. Now, it just seemed like everything just got down the drain. Now we're almost all at the bottom.
Correct, and it was the full intent of us to sit with a group of you and to be able to discuss this. Prior to our attorney becoming involved, we were told we could only speak with administrative personnel and it would filter through. And I think there were some issues there too. So a group of people sitting around and discussing what's the best for both would hopefully be a better path forward.
How can we help?
Want to go through line by line?
No, we're not as, I mean, that's gonna be the attorney when they start the negotiations. I mean, we're not gonna have 5 of us having our idea and, you guys having your idea, but I don't know. I mean, how did we get to this point? I mean, we were at a point for quite a few years that the county and the Fair Society worked together and stuff was moving along.
And it wasn't horrible. You guys weren't the bad guys. We weren't the bad guys. All of a sudden, you're Satan. We're terrible. I don't agree with that. And I don't think that that's where we need to be. I think that I agree. I think that we can talk together and figure out where we need to be. What would the county like to see? If we didn't have this piece of paper, what would the county like to see? What would make the county comfortable with the Fair Society and the fair?
What you're gonna have, I mean, I'm only one person from the county. I am a supervisor, I do represent a district, but my opinion could be totally different than, you know, the management or everyone
We're
could
gonna
have.
we're gonna have 9 different opinions about what we need to see, but that's the value of communication and conversation. What, in your opinion, what would it take? And in your opinion, what would it take? In Steve's opinion, what would it take? In Amy's opinion, what would it take? And let's see if we can at least find some common ground to start working out.
I almost wonder if we need a process, a procedure for getting to this. Like, almost like we need some sort of like, how is it?
Well, I
Because it
mean-
doesn't, like you say, we can't go line by line around there.
Well, and we're not gonna even, we may not even talk about the MOU today. I mean, if the Fair Society hasn't reviewed it and they're not prepared,
Right.
and Malia's not prepared. Are we prepared to start a line by line? I mean,
Right.
today? I think for today, we maybe should establish. I mean, what are some of the county's priorities and what are some of the Fair Societies? I feel, I mean, that the fairgrounds is the county. Belongs to everyone in Polk County. Polk County taxpayers own the fairground.
I
Someone,
don't think we've got a problem.
yeah, someone needs to put on the fair. Because I'm not, it's not, they're not gonna be a fair if they tell me to do it. So the Fair Society has picked that up. I think everyone's appreciated that. But I think over the years, it isn't just the fair anymore. I mean, all of a sudden, it's a rental unit in the winter. I was never privy to that happening. It's a campground. It's a house was purchased. I mean, so many things have been done. Demands have been made. I mean, they came into a meeting once, told me that if we didn't fix the electrical and do some things, blood would be on our hands. It's like, really? I mean, really, the blood is on our hands? I said, won't be no blood on anybody's hands. The thing will be shut down if that's the despair it's in. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, just a lot of things. I mean, right now, there just seems to be a lot of liability on the county. I heard, I don't know if it's true, that buildings are being rented to a third party who's renting out. I mean, who's liable down there? I mean, when something happens. And I can't, as a representative of the district, jeopardize who I represent and not do something or say something.
Is that regarding the winter storage? Is that what you're referring to?
I don't know. I heard winter storage was,
there
it
is-
wasn't just the society renting out winter storage, that you were renting out someone who's renting out.
There, and again, I think recently there's been a lot of maybe exploited information given out. For winter storage, there's a contract that every person who puts an item into store signs that was reviewed by former corporate counsel Jeff Huey. That is the one that we're currently using. They realize that they have to have their own. Okay, very good. Thank you, Chad. He has a copy that he was going to give to Mo. These are all given to Mo. Copies of these were given to Mo. I believe what the information or what you're questioning is one of the buildings is rented by the individual. And they take off some boats off at Deer Lake and bring them in and store them, and then he takes them back out. He has signed this, so he has fully read it and knows that he, and we can verify this, that he is assuming the liability for everything that is stored in there, just like the individuals who sign this, when they put theirs item into store, they know what their liability is.
Yeah, I think the thing in question is, does he pay the same rate as every other citizen? Square foot? He pays the same rate?
Per item, I believe, that was a deal between our former treasurer and he. I would need to go back. We would need to go back and clarify that because I don't recall that the rest of the board was. And in fact, when he signed his contract this year, I did not know what the deal was. So he paid what he had paid in a prior year. And so we would need to go and verify that because
I think what he's trying to say is, does every citizen in Polk County pay the same square foot rate when they bring a unit in? If the motorhome's this long, they pay this much.
they pay that one.
And does this individual then pay the same amount as the rest of the citizens of Polk County? So that he's not taking a discounted rate and then charging customers
That would
additional
be-
money so that he's making additional money off a county-owned building. I think, isn't that what we're trying to get to?
I
Yeah,
don't know
that's-
that we know exactly what he charges his people.
Yep.
And every building is kind of prorated too, so.
There.
So you have a fee schedule.
There is a fee schedule, yes, for the length, the size of the building.
That is listed on the website.
Yep,
The same for everybody.
for everybody that
Everybody
comes
pays
in,
the exact
but I do
same.
not know per item what the individual who is putting everything in that building has.
And
So
he
he may
may,
have a different schedule.
we don't know, he may not even be charging, that may be a service that he's offering.
Yeah.
That he's got covered storage for his customers. He may not be charging them $50 or $100 or $300 for, whatever. We don't know that. To my understanding, we
Yeah.
rented him the space and he brings materials from his marina in and stores them. in that
Well,
building.
it's not per,
It's not a marina?
just, it's a service. He also lives on Deer Lake. So otherwise that building did not always fill up. It has screen sides versus fully secure. There is a couple items undercover where that is a discounted rate of $100 on cement and undercover. But the sides are not secure. So, but that stuff is all offered to everybody the same.
Is it a square foot? I'm sorry. Is it a square foot? Is that how you do it? Like,
Length of the item. Length of the item.
Let's not get caught up in.
sorry.
in
So
the
that,
building or the rent. Let's get caught up in someone else giving their opinion of what does the county need to get a relationship back with the Fair Society. What do we need to make that happen?
I think we need a little more openness and I think we need a business plan. So we know what's happening. I think it's kind of hit and miss out there. Does society have like any kind of a business plan or anything else, what you're gonna do, your 5-year plan, your 1-year plan, or what are you gonna do tomorrow? Or, I mean, is there something, do you have anything in writing that way? So we know what's happening out there.
there have been long-range plans and things done over a period of years. It hasn't been updated currently. We have a budget. There is a budget.
So do you have a business plan to make a budget? So how do you make a budget without a business plan? Is what I'm asking.
It could be done. There could be some more steps done more formally. It has been a group headed by financial people who make the budget and move forward with that. And the budget is presented and approved by the Fair Board, and then it was presented to the Fair Society at the annual.
At your annual meeting, do they have a list of events or something, or how do you, what kind of business plan is there to have a budget?
There is just a budget that has been prepared that's presented.
How do they prepare a budget without knowing the events and some of those things? How do you do a budget? I
Yeah,
guess?
sure.
I personally have not been involved with the budgeting process.
Okay, I'm
Um,
just wondering how do you get up to a number that you need 600,000 this year, 200,000, 100? But you don't have a list of events or
So-
a business plan, is what I'm saying. You know,
any monies requested though from here have always just been capital improvements to
Correct.
facilities.
Yeah.
We know based on dollars and cents, what you can bring, what we can to operate the fair. If there is no money there, you pare back. If there is money, then you plan accordingly for improvements, added entertainment, things like that.
But you also have other events and you have this rental thing and all this. So I mean, that should be a business plan of the
All
total
right, why
use,
don't we,
the total use of it. I mean,
why
it's
don't
not
we
really-
try to at least get maybe Rory on the page that we're on, just to walk in and, we were done probably about 20 after 9.
Okay.
With our business portion of the meeting. And we talked about going into a closed session to discuss upcoming negotiations on the MOU.
Sure.
And we never went into a closed session. We just started having conversation and asked, I guess, Malia and Joe, that if we're entering an arena, we shouldn't be in open session to stop us. And the members of the Fair Society were here, sitting out in the hall, and this door is open, and they asked if they could come in and talk to us. And like, absolutely.
Oh, I have no problem with any of that. That's all.
Well, if you do, I mean, you're gonna have to talk to them about it, not us. So the agenda item is a discussion regarding the county's MOU with the fairs. That's our agenda item.
Right.
We may have drifted from the MOU, but we did talk about the MOU. We just got it 20 minutes ago. Apparently, your group hasn't seen it or hasn't discussed it. Are we ready to negotiate the MOU, or what are we doing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think that's up to people in this room. I intended to have it done last week, and one thing led to another, and I just finished it yesterday. Sent it to my client, sent it to Malia like 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So she got it like relatively, you know, I think it's probably productive to at least talk about things that are contentious. And we go through it and say, this is going to be an issue, this is going to be an issue, this is going to be an issue. You at least identify the parts that maybe, that's my suggestion, would be a bone of contention. Then we can maybe go caucus about those things and like try to see if there's some sort of resolution on it.
It might be easier for us to tell you which things we could maybe have some little ground on even.
Okay.
Because we went through it
Sure.
in open session. And there is most of it. We could probably give you the ones that aren't in disagreement.
Okay.
Easier.
So let me make a copy on my computer. And then we can do that. And then,
Are you guys ready to, or do you guys want to talk about it? Or, I mean, I don't have all day. I actually.
There are a few items, I think. I mean, we as many of our group as possible discussed some of this last night of the group that was here prior in May. So a handful of things to identify, I guess. Things that might work and things that, I mean, we took things from Rory's drafts, things that we thought were a little heavy-handed and thought they were
Welcome, my
discussion.
trust.
Yes.
All right, why, are you ready to go through it?
We're more than happy to talk about anything that you'd like to talk about.
why don't you let me know what the parts of it that you have concerns about. But let's get started with that. But I recognize we haven't got all day. I want to be respectful of your time. You let me know those things, and I think that's probably the best starting point.
Well, we're not selling it for $1.
Okay.
Under any conditions. The grandstand will be built when the board decides. I mean, we're not going to be forced into anything. We've been providing bleachers since the grandstand was tore down. We do whatever we can to ensure that the fair gets run. I mean, we're not giving up control. We own the buildings, we own the land. We'll decide what gets maintained, when it does, at what cost, and who does the work. And I mean, we want the society to put a fair on. I mean, we're willing to contribute to it. We want that. What we don't want is be pushed around. Everyone in Polk County owns that ground. It isn't us. I mean, Polk County Board doesn't own it. I mean, the Polk County owns it.
And I think that's something that we can agree on. There is language in here that I agree with Carrie. I think it is a little heavy-handed. You know, we don't require that Polk County, the executive board, the county board, whatever the entity is, we don't require them to simply write a blank check to be filled in at a later date. We would like to work with you. You know, there are things that have happened over the last 10 years that are not beneficial to either one of us. Let's, for lack of a better word, let's start fresh today. And if you've got questions, if you've got concerns, address them to me. I will be your communication lead, and let's work forward, you know, as far as we can. Mo and I seem to have a fairly good relationship. You know, he doesn't, when I see his phone number come up on my phone, I don't automatically block it. You know, and I think it goes both ways. You know, so if you've got questions, I'm your guy. Let's work forward through this.
So could you guys go through, I mean, well, so there's two things I'm thinking about the process here. There's one option is for you guys to bring us back the pulled back version. You know, this was swinging for the fences. Maybe your version, we could work with more quickly. That's one option, or we just.
Well,
go
how about our original? What was so offensive? We asked for a rewrite. Our original version that was sent to the society.
If you have that is a copy of your.
The original one
Yeah.
came to us in February of 2020.
You have a copy of it?
Not currently in front of me.
Good. You have a copy of our proposal that we sent. I mean, that's where we would like to start. I mean, I understand that you guys would maybe like to start at the last one we got like half hour ago, but they're just, that's just too far out there. Is ours that far out there that you can't find middle ground?
There were, so this one, coming from the original one that is currently in place was significantly different. And then we took this and made some changes and sent back to you in August of 2020. And then nothing was ever done until last May 31st of 22, excuse me, when we sat around the table and agreed to start the move forward.
Can I ask, is this the version that was sent to us in February of 2020, or is this the version that we sent back to you as modified in August of 2020, if you know?
It is the version that was originally sent to the Fair Society at the beginning of 2020.
Okay, well, this one says, if the Fair Society breaches the agreement, county's remedies would include requiring the Fair Society to purchase the fairgrounds from the county for $1. So that's where that came from. I mean, this is your proposal.
Yes.
But it's just, this morning I'm hearing, we're under no circumstances going to sell the fairgrounds to the society for $1. But that's what was proposed.
Well, what does that language say?
He is correct. That was a part of the original proposal that came when we were working with Mo and Chad. And the intent behind it was if there was a failure and a breach, then the fair would be on their own. They would have the land back and the property, but they would have no more financial support whatsoever from the county. And the reason that was proposed and agreed to at that time by the committee was because the fear of liability if we maintained county property, but yet had absolutely no control over the county property. So that was, again, in that initial draft that was sent in 2020.
I mean, I only mentioned it because, you know, one of the things you immediately said that you have an objection to in what I sent you yesterday is that us buying it back for $1. And I just want to be clear, like, I'm not proposing that in bad faith. I wasn't like, we're taking advantage of the county. It's just, that was in the original draft. That's what I thought was what you wanted.
Well, I think the way it's worded here is that the fair has, it's all in the fair. As if any breach is done, it automatically goes to the fair.
Yeah, but
If the fair breaches it, the fair gets it for $1.
But then, that's
That-
the same thing. It's the fair will choose to breach, like, we'll choose to breach something and then we'll buy it back for $1 and it's done.
That is in essence what this was saying.
Right. We all sign it and the fair says, well, I'm not gonna submit my financial documents. I breach it. Now I get the fairgrounds for $1.
Bingo.
But what else?
That's what I thought you wanted.
Like Russ said, we're gonna take it out of vote. What's that? Take the $1.
What else in our original one was so that we can't reach middle ground now?
Okay, so the changes, did this group ever see what we sent back in August of 2020? Our first draft remedy back?
We're done.
Sure we can. I'll go see if I can get it.
Because
Can you copy it?
because what Rory has proposed to us now is part of the original MOU that is in effect. And part of this MOU
But by Malia.
provided by Malia and part of our first draft response back to you in August of 2020. That was never, then nothing ever came back to us after that. So part of that.
Yeah, right, Malia, is the ball in our court?
We did a review of all of the emails and there is no record of ever receiving a reply in August of 2020 from the fair.
We have it on all of ours that it was indeed sent to Malia and to Mo.
But whether it was sent in August 2020 is irrelevant because after the meeting in May of this year, I just forwarded the email from August. So maybe you didn't get it in August, but you definitely had it in May because I sent it. That was May of this
And
year.
that's when this committee when it first got, we didn't get any of that stuff before that because we weren't.
No, I get
overseeing
that,
it.
but just as far as like workflow, it was, you sent us this in February of 2020. We sent you a response in either August of 2020 or May of this year. And then we sent you another response. But we haven't got a response. There's never been a response from the MOU or the redraft that was sent in August of 2020, even if it was resent in May of this year.
Because I believe that was our original agreement when we left here in May 31st, was that we would meet again in August of 2020, 2022.
22.
And
And we would have a
Rory never
response.
received anything back.
Right.
For us to move forward on.
So then I just ended up, I was like, okay, well, I'll just redraft again, and then we have something reactive. But certainly my understanding coming out of the meeting in May of 2022 was that we were going to get a response to the August 2020 MOU, which I forwarded after the meeting, Malia.
How come we didn't, we were gonna meet in August, how come we didn't meet in August?
Well, partly it was because of the other country, partly it was because that's when the fair act goes on, but they didn't have time. And then partly it was because we didn't get a redraft from the August 2020 response, so it's like.
Yeah.
Then the whole thing restarted, if you remember, when I came in last month.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, because it had been 2-3 months, and I was like, okay, let's get back.
So I guess we don't know if there was ever anything drawn up after we met with you in May.
August input.
But
Yes.
I can speak for the fair side, and they'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but just going through this February 2020 draft, you want to know what, if the objection about it. from the Versailles point of view. Part of it is the fact that paragraph 3 on page 2, if the Fair Society needs have repairs done, they submit the request to the Public Works Director for consideration through the budget process. That is, I think, well, correct, that's objection from the society's point of view, right? Is, you know, having to go like cap in hand through the Public Works Director, that is not what the current MOU requires, and that's something I think the Fair Society is unwilling to agree.
Where do you want to go through?
That's possibly, that's a county policy. So I mean,
But that's a policy you created after the MOU from 2003.
Who do you want to go through?
They want to do it, I think, again, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, they want to do it the old way, where they would just, it would be the, you know, dealing with the executive committee, dealing directly with the fair board.
executive committee never dealt with it, therefore.
I don't know.
No, Greg, no.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
I think that is, can be discussed.
I mean, the committee's not gonna come down there and look at a building that
No.
needs repair. We have a
Uh,
designated person that does it countywide. I mean,
And I,
that person is doing all that now, including building dams and bridges,
yes.
everything else, so.
Right. And I think that whatever the designated chain is, we can work with that as long as there is communication.
Here's what it says in the current MOU. The one that's currently in place, that's binding on the county, county's obligations currently are the Fair Society should prepare through its Buildings and Grounds Committee, facilities maintenance plan and related budget requests. And then present those to the Polk County Property, Forestry and Recreation Committee no later than August 31st of each year. That's the current MOU says.
Then that committee was now not there.
Yeah, I know that. But that's, you did that, you know.
But that's going by budget policy. They have to bring it to a committee. What they want to have finished and done at the budget time. That's a county policy. It's a county-owned facility, so they have to do county policy. It's that simple.
And we did.
It's simple.
We get a copy of who's on your committees and your structure, so your Buildings and Grounds Committee is the one that's supposed to be bringing this forward. Who is on that? Can we get that structure on paper to say this person is in charge of grandstands?
The org chart.
The carnival, this is the tractor pulls or whatever.
Yes.
What committee is each one?
We did bring you that. Janice and I were here at your August meeting, and prior to that, the information had gone in, the CIP request had been presented earlier. So we did come, it is our intent to do what you asked, so.
Did you not get money this year at the budget meeting? I think.
Yes, we did,
Mr. Warren,
Yes.
brought it forward.
yeah, and so you had our CIP
So that's-
request.
Yeah.
And then we were here at the August 10th meeting, I believe it was, or August 12th, to present that.
Okay, so that's how it works. That's how every part of the county works. It's a policy.
We did do that this year, yeah.
Yes, so you did it this year, so. You can't be against that, I wouldn't think that that's a county policy. That it isn't that hard to do, is it?
No,
Okay.
But your relationship prior to the reorganization of having a building manager that takes, yeah, and change of structure. Debbie Peterson was your contact all the time through the county.
and we had a working relationship with her, and under different leadership, it, as with any group, as leadership changes, sometimes things change exactly how things are done. But I do believe that Debbie had the interests of the fair, and we did work. Things kind of ebb and flow under different leaders. But we did always work with Debbie Peterson to make the budgeting requests and the CIP requests. That's traditionally how it's been done.
But it sounds like you're fine with the new ebb and flow, our new structure, or what committees things go to, it's just the process that is good, is fine.
Yeah, there's language in here that talks about, routine maintenance and who's responsible, and what, anytime we did changes to the fairgrounds. We had let Debbie know when we poured a lot of cement, improved the walkways in the barn. Those kinds of things, to the best of my knowledge, we were communicating with them. So there was a communication back and forth. Who was responsible for it? I mean,
Are you looking at the current draft from you guys? Like, can you tell me what? Where you are?
I'm not a specific thing. I'm just referring to how things have happened. Because the fair itself put a lot of investment into improvements on the grounds. But Debbie Peterson, as that was always made aware of what was going on.
I think one of the things that is motivating society is that there's this sense that the fairgrounds and society are sort of drifting into being a subordinate of the county board. Like, you want us to comply with your policy, you want us to come to the right committee and talk to the right person, come in kind of cap in hand, asking for, you know, repairs to be done or maintenance to be done. But the society's perspective is that this is a meeting of equals, that they're like, here's the society, here's the county, they're meeting as equals, as opposed to the society just being another department of the county. And that's, I think, probably part of what's motivating, even like on this, like it says, your proposal from February 2020 says the Fair Society shall have exclusive use and control of the fairgrounds and all fairground facilities during the time necessary to operate the annual Polk County Fair, including preparatory time leading up to the Polk County Fair and any time necessary to tear down the fair. So that sounds like this is county property. This basically belongs to us. But we are, in our, you know, great sort of, you know, wisdom, going to allow you to set up the fair, hold the fair, and then tear down the fair. That's objectionable because these fairgrounds at one time were just owned by the society. They gave them to the county in like the 1970s. But even the 2003 MOU says it is the intent of the parties, the Polk County Fair Society should have exclusive control of the management and use of the Polk County Fairground. But it doesn't say to host the fair or to set it up or to take it down. It says they belong to the society or the county, but they are to be controlled and used and managed by the society. And whereas the new draft in 2020 would be more reflective of the current county position, which is, you know, it's the county's property, but we will allow the Fair Society to use it. I think more than anything else, like, everything stems from that sort of different perspective, because even talking about something like repairs, the society's attitude is more like, you know, we're meeting as equals, we should have equal participation in determining what repairs need to be done and who, like, you know, deciding what is or is not necessary. Whereas the county's more like, well, you're just another department who goes through the same budget process as everybody else. And I think that.
Yes, I think that is it, because what's in here changed a lot. It's exactly what Rory said. And we didn't ever do things at the fairground. As I stated earlier, improvements, things that were done, we always, it was Debbie Peterson at that, we always informed her of what was going on. Things that were being done. It's just in everybody's best interest that we manage the fairgrounds, but we're not doing anything in a vacuum. If it's something substantial, the county was made aware.
Debbie's been
But
gone.
you come after the fact and give us a bill, don't even ask, we don't know who did the work was done correctly, we're fixing a bathroom or whatever, again, the vents don't work right. I mean, there's things you can't just go in and just do. And you don't even own it.
Right.
You don't own the building.
I think the
You
relationship.
can't walk in there and you can't walk into this building and do whatever you want to it. Everybody owns this building. We're not owners.
There has to be a relationship in which, as landlords,
Yeah.
there has to be a landlord leasing relationship. We're liable. So that's, I think, if you want to have a relationship of equals, you can, but it's kind of like if you're renting from our land, you have to follow the rules that any landlord would apply. I don't think we're asking for any abnormal rules there.
But I think the society doesn't think of you as their landlord. They think of you as their partner. Like, the reason the county owns this land is because it was given to you. Back in the 1970s, there was a concern that there's all the fairgrounds were owned by this association, but it wasn't necessarily always going to be the case. There was a concern, and again, I could be mistaken, but my understanding from speaking to the historians from the Fair Society is that there was a concern that if the association ended or like broke down, that it could be that the like few remaining members, maybe there's 2 or 3 people left in the association, they'd end up owning the fair, like personally end up owning the fairgrounds, and then they could turn around and sell it or make money on it. And that wasn't what was intended. So they were like, to prevent that from happening, what we will do is we'll give it to the county. We'll give the county the fairgrounds so that no one person actually owns it. But the purpose in giving it to the county is to ensure that that doesn't happen. We expect, however, that the fairgrounds will be maintained. The county will take care of them. And that's like, it was sold to the county for $1 in the 1970s. The same concern probably doesn't exist anymore as far as the society goes, because it's 501c3, it's incorporated, there's many more members, and there's like rules for how its property would be distributed if it were to terminate. But they definitely don't think of you as like their landlord. You know,
But from a practical standpoint, Rory, the county, it is county-owned property. There is liability because of that. So when things happen on that property and they didn't go through what, you know, the purchasing policy of the county, I mean, we have internal, I'm talking personal injury liability, we're talking property liability, and we're talking violating statutes. So whether they think of the county as a landlord or not, it ignores the fact that from a practical standpoint, the county bears the lion's share of all of the risk associated with the property and associated with whatever happens on the property, while the fair simply enjoys all of the benefits. That's I think where the disconnect is.
Okay, but then why is the county not willing to just give the fairgrounds back?
Sell it back to them.
Well, firstly, you gotta build the ground stuff. Then having built the ground stuff,
Oh, first we have to do, we gotta spend $2 million. Then we can get to you.
you gotta, here's the MOU, you have an obligation to the ground stuff, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, we did vote on that, so that part's all right, but I mean. You have to be a little more realistic here to sell it back.
So
You said all this has changed, okay, that's why we're here.
I think, so if there were some oversights prior, but where something wasn't followed, the letter of your interpretation of the law, I believe it was an oversight, but there have been bids solicited, to the best of my knowledge, and always transferred this way. So when you're talking liability, it is like the fair carries a liability policy on that grounds too, for personal liability. And the county, I believe, to the best of my understanding, carries the premise liability, the buildings, and are responsible for that. Like I said, I had hoped, and there may have been breakdown occasionally, but and that's what we need to strive for, is to work together to communicate about what's going on there so that everybody's needs are met.
Can I just ask when Debbie left, what was the person, what were you thinking was the communication line? Who did you start with?
Well, as members, budgets were given, requests were given to Mo, I believe, when things were restructured.
Yeah, there was. When Debbie Peterson was replaced, she was replaced with Rod Polk. Rod Polk was that. There was a gap. There's a gap there where the society has not contacted Rod Polk for things and stuff. I got more involved once the fairgrounds came with the division structure. After that, came more into it. So, we've been slowly working through the details on what needs to be done for projects and what needs to be done for that. And Debbie might have been a lot hands off and let the fair go with that. I am more hands on when it comes to bidding, who bids, code and all that stuff. So might have been more contentious that way because I ask a lot more questions. When I get an invoice and I want a detailed invoice on how many nails went on the roof or how many pounds, I want to know that for records, because if public record comes back and says, why'd you pay this voucher? I know what went on that voucher, it's just not a blanket check.
Well, and just from a historical perspective, Mo, I believe it was the time when Mr. Fugie was interim county administrator for that stretch. And at that time, my understanding was there was a fundamental breakdown in communication between Deb and the Fair Society. But again, that's just for historical reference at this point. The liability concern when it comes to, let's say, take something simple like paint. Paint is ordered, it's used to fix or paint a county-owned building on the fairgrounds, and there's leftover paint. And where is that going? Is that being stored in somebody's basement? Is that gifted to somebody? I'm not saying that it is, but without the inventory, there's going to be questions of, you know, is the county honoring their fiduciary duty to the taxpayers when we've got county-owned property, and yet the county is completely hands-off as far as any records of maintenance and inventory of that sort. So there's just a lot of questions, and maybe those questions weren't being asked before, but they, you know, having that ability to communicate is imperative.
Seems like the fastest way forward. We got both documents in front of us now. We can start to go down through this stuff and see what we agree or disagree. You know, the paragraph that Rory talked about first there was, you know, when the fairground has to use the property, when they talk about tear down, but then their rebuttal was only to add a sentence that says the Fair Society shall manage and schedule all the use of the Polk County Fairgrounds. I believe that's what they do now. The use of the weddings, the fair, you know, Malia, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, they manage the use. We don't manage the use. They manage the use. We should have no objection to that being added, correct?
That's a policy consideration for you guys. So absolutely, I would agree.
I mean, we don't want to schedule that stuff. We don't want to do it. They do it. As long as they keep us informed of what events are happening, that they're properly insured. I mean, that's how it's run now.
Which version of these two are you looking at?
I got their version on my left side. And
I got two of their versions.
Malia's version.
So they're the one that says fair reply.
There's two.
I
There's
know.
different.
I know.
There is
One without fair replies.
Yeah.
Which one are you working on?
So the pair, this is Malia's.
That was January of 20.
And this is the
August.
Wait a minute,
the fairs.
This one was January.
On
The Malia one. The Malia one was January of 20.
not that one. Yeah, that's their rebuttal, but it's this one right here.
This. one. Right, gotcha. January 20.
You have too many documents. So I mean, if we're gonna get anywhere, we don't have any objections to that. That could be one of the things we could move on with.
Now you're working off of 1/20, January 20. And then you're comparing
And this is 8/12/20,
that 20.
yeah, and then this is Malia's. One Malia sent you, correct?
That one,
Then this is your rebuttal.
Correct.
That's one you sent in August. That's
That
the
one
one
we
we
got
sent.
just today.
Yeah.
That one.
I'll put that one over there.
The one from today is what Rory prepared that has something from everything put together in it.
Yeah, he's using the.
We're using the other, or using the other one.
He's comparing those two. Because the one from August 2020, he's quite right. The change you made to that first paragraph on the first page of the one from, a paragraph that regarding the use and ownership or the use and control of the fairground. The change you made to that in August of 2020 was simply to add the sentence that the Fair Society shall manage and schedule the use of the Polk County Fairground.
And prior to that, with this agreement, it sounds like you could only manage it until the stuff was torn down.
That is correct.
So, I mean, that's what you're doing now,
Yes.
and, you know, I'm okay with what they're doing now. I'm not gonna manage it. We're not gonna manage it, so. I mean, it's just an added paragraph or sentence there that says they manage it.
The other people, the hockey association and the Little Red Schoolhouse,
Those are discussion points. I believe at one point the county board gave the Red Schoolhouse to the St. Croix Falls Historical Society.
Yeah.
They have been maintaining that building. Obviously, we provide the electricity and all that, but they have been working to maintain that. The Hockey Association, we have had we have an agreement, but there have been points in time where they bypassed us and came directly to the county. So at this point, I don't know exactly that we know how that is to operate. So that is definitely something that needs to be further discussed, I believe.
Well, let's discuss, it ties back in, what the gentleman saying is that we have exclusive use control. Like if we're ultimately the ones in charge of the ground, then these entities should really be coming to us rather than to the county, right? I mean,
You're managing it.
Yeah, it's not, I don't know about the exclusive part. Their wording is the Fair Society shall manage and schedule the use of it. Not have exclusive. use.
well, I
You know,
think it's slightly,
something else might have to happen there beyond their control. Somebody else may want to use it. We may want to use it.
right,
So we, you know, it shouldn't be exclusive. They manage it.
that's the conflict, though. I think that you want exclusive use.
We want to be able to manage the grounds, but it's not like we're doing anything that's going to go against the wishes of the county or anything that's secret. Obviously, it should be an open dialogue. We
I-
manage it for
I
the,
think the problem is with the word exclusive. We don't have a problem taking that out, as long as Mo and I can work on this as a partnership. I mean, yes, if we are managing the use of the grounds, that's fine. If the county needs to use the grounds, as long as the communication is open and forthcoming and parallel, I don't think that we've got a problem with that.
Would you be willing to take exclusive out of this whole document?
Yes, ma'am.
That would help probably.
Before I speak for the rest of my team, are we fine with taking the word exclusive out? As long as this is an open partnership between our two entities, I don't think it needs to say exclusive or mandatory or any of that. As long as we can approach this together.
Let's say
honestly and open.
Let's say I was a third party entity and I wanted to come in and do something, okay? I wanted to host a dairy breakfast, okay? And I'm gonna do it once a quarter. And I approach the county and they say, that's fine, or you can do that. Do I need to come ask you as well?
No, because I think that Mo is going to say, okay, we've got a event scheduled for X day. And then he's going to say, he's going to come to me and say, is that amenable to you?
But that's the problem with that, is that's you and Mo. I believe you're, that's absolutely what would happen when it's you and Mo. But like, let's plan for the future, like.
Well, then if it says manage the use, that would be a use. So they would have to go to the Fair Society for any use. So if the county wants to put on something, they would have to come to the Fair Society and say, is it open on June 5th? We want to do something. And they could say, no, we have something. Okay, is the 6th open? They are managing the schedule.
Okay.
That's what this says. We're talking now, if they want a building built or something, now they got to come get everything. So that it's a different salary. The use is what they're managing. They can't just all of a sudden put a building up and say, okay, we built it, here's the bill.
Right.
So that's what, I think that's where we got to do this distinction. They're going to manage the use. If we want to use it, we'll have to do like anybody else, ask for a date, schedule.
Let's say, my question is, I understand the scheduling aspect, but let's say they had an objection to the actual nature of the use, like, for whatever reason, grounds are gonna get used in such a way that they think it would negatively impact the fair. You know, right, wrong, or indifferent, they just don't like use to be made. They're like, you're gonna leave a lot of debris, or there's gonna be a fire or something, and so they object to the nature of the use that is being proposed to be made. Do they have the capacity to say, or the authority to say, no, you can't use it in that way, even if the county says yes?
County is doing the,
That's it,
I
that's
think-
what I'm saying. Some
yeah.
third party comes in, they ask, but not you, Mo, but you know, the public works director. In 20 years' time, somebody comes in and says, can I make this kind of use of the fair society, or sorry, of the fairgrounds? And public works director says, yes, that's fine. And the society has an objection to the nature of the use. And they say no, or do they just have to, are they just there for the scheduling?
It's manage and schedule, so that it would go to them first before it came to them. So it should be that sequence of events should happen that way.
So both parties need to consent to the use. Is that true?
Not right now. It says the Fair Society shall manage and schedule the use of the Polk County Fairground. So in that wording, that's what they do, the use and managing of the fairground.
Or do you?
Is that not correct?
Or do you need language in there that says not to degrade the current status of the buildings or grounds of the fairgrounds?
But right now, they have that authority to manage and schedule. So if it's something that they're afraid of, they can say no, and the fight would be on that, whatever. But
Well, can they
But
say,
right now-
can they say no to the county?
say no to anybody right now, the way it says, because they're managing and scheduling the use, if it's a use. Which
On the
it-
flip side of that, if someone came to the Fair Society and said, in 20 years, it says, I want to do a 2-week equipment operator school in the fairgrounds. It's a great idea. We're going to pay you $250,000 for the use of it. So you bring in all the equipment, you dig holes, you do all this stuff in there. They're manage it, they're the use. But is there language in there so that they don't subsequently harm the buildings of infrastructure of the facility, so that they don't come back the next year for CIP and say, we need the grounds regraded because we had this event that came out.
They dug up all the sewer power lines. and
Just to put in there that it
So I
doesn't
mean, that's where,
hurt the infrastructure or
Yeah.
character of the, or we're written, I'm not.
Is that not covered under a mutually beneficial agreement between our two parties? Because your office and my office as buildings and grounds would need to get together and say, these are the potential problems. This is the risk assessment. This is what I see going wrong. This is what you see going wrong. How do we come together? That's what I believe a mutually beneficial partnership between our two entities would look like. Doesn't matter if you're in the office or I'm in the office, as long as the communication is open between the two parties. And we are both working towards a common goal, which is the utilization of the fairgrounds to the betterment of Polk County.
I think that's a huge, that needs to be in there, so
Spell that
we're not in the seats. The next party has that agreement.
the next paragraph, if you read the next one, now if it's structural repairs and all that, then it's, you come to the county. So that's where we have to separate them. The use, structural repairs and that are separate issues.
I think
So
maybe
paragraph 2 is that, it says, okay, now we'll seek agreement with the county. So it does kind of separate the two things.
I think I'm probably being too technical about it. When I say exclusive use and control, that's like, to me, that's saying that we have the use and control of the fairgrounds at all times, right, for 12 months in the year. And if you want to use it, it's not that we're not willing to allow somebody else, but we're the only person to make the decision. If you want to have the equipment operator school, because I have exclusive use of the fairgrounds for 12 months, you need to come ask me. But this third party needs to come ask the society as opposed to ask the county. And it doesn't, I mean, they may say yes, they may say no, but when I say exclusive use control, I'm not saying like nobody else is ever allowed to use it. What I mean is like, if somebody else is going to use it, whose permission do they need to get? Do they need to get county's permission, the society's permission, or both parties?
And we should say that, not exclusive.
Right.
They need to get to societies because they are managing and scheduling the use.
Okay.
So that's their
Yeah, they-
part.
but-
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think.
So
we're
I
all
think that's
in
right there.
agreement with that.
I think we're not gonna agree
That's
with that.
so that then I think is just the way I worded it, because to me, you've said the same thing, I
The
just.
same thing,
Yeah.
you're trying to say it partially.
Well,
Soften it up.
So, it's not me being harsh, it's just, that's how the law says it, like if I read from you, if I read something from you, I have the exclusive use and ownership of it. That doesn't mean I can't, like,
Those guys, you know, we have to charge them rent, we're not gonna charge them rent. See, we're not charging them
Yeah,
rent.
okay, I understand
Do the renters agreement stuff. We're out of that.
So we could progress.
So paragraph 2 looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, and all the paragraphs, as far as I know, read the same till we get to 16. Okay. Obviously, there's some difference of opinion in 16, so let's talk about those differences so that we can keep this moving.
Absorbing financial losses.
Yeah, and we fully believe that we get the profit, or if we, and a lot of times it's weather determinant if the fair is successful or not. And then if we don't make as much money or lose money, then that is on us, and that is how we budget and move forward for the next year. That's how we do that versus having a formal business plan. per se.
Which you could have to cover that, because if there's rentals in that, does that fall into this paragraph also? Because then you're making money year round
Right. But.
to
so-
cover a loss for that.
Right, because
Okay.
that other money is coming in, whereas in the one drawn up by Malia, you wanted half of the rental. Or the money that comes from winter storage, I'll refer to as winter storage. We took that out because that money, a big chunk of that money was being put away to help fund a grandstand. That was what was set up and presented to you back in 2016. So that was taken out, and I think what we did change, you wanted $1 from every person entering the gate. And we took that out of there in our redraft back to you. I'm probably jumping ahead from where Steve is going here, so.
Yeah, what's your question? What's your-
I don't know that I have a question. I just, paragraph got bigger and I want to know why. I
Yeah,
guess,
it did.
you know, and
Okay,
just
so what-
totally understand. I mean, we can still direct Malia, our committee can direct her to read those paragraphs. And get back to us what, make sure there's not a word in there that we
Okay.
don't understand. you
So
know.
Steve, what I'm looking at under 16 is just what you presented to us. I do not have,
What was added was the Polk County shall provide financial aid to the Polk County Fair.
For the-
Then the state aid does not cover over the.
Okay, yep.
The middle.
Such
Okay,
that
the middle sentence.
support bills for the fair. I guess one of the questions is that your fund balance, whatever you want to call it, is continually growing to that point. And it's always saying, it's put on the fair. At some point, is there, as being a nonprofit, should there be a limit on where that goes and then that money invested back in the fairgrounds?
Well, I think that language in that 16, in our 16, comes from the existing MOU. The existing MOU says Polk County shall provide financial aid to Polk County Fair Society to the extent state aid does not cover exhibit premium costs. Such financial support shall continue in order to ensure the continuation of the annual Polk County Fair. So the reason that it's in our redraft from August 2020 is because it's currently in the MOU. So why would you take it out?
That is correct. Just so everybody knows, the portion of the premiums has just been open class premium money that has been funded by the county. The junior premium monies are funded by the state. So the open senior citizen, people who enter their crafts, their baked goods, their whatever it is, the county has helped to provide the premium money for those people. That is exclusively what this sentence says.
How much is it a year?
We're thinking $5,000 to $7,000.
I think it was budgeted higher than that, but in recent years with COVID and everything, it has been a lot
And
less.
so to the best of my knowledge, then only the money that is actually paid out is what is requested from the county. The fully budgeted amount, you don't give us 11,000 and we're only paying out 6.
But then what Moa's statement is, okay, if you're making money every year on it, is it covered? That why is the county still giving you that 7,000 when you have 600,000 in your coffers and stuff? You have $600,000 and we're still giving you 700 and you're saving this money. That's kind of what everybody's looking at. The state aid pays X amount of dollars. Okay, so now you made $20,000 on, say, on the fair. would that not go to next year's fair then? Pay that $5,000 premium? Or what would, how do you use that
It could
money?
be the money used from the fair is used to make improvements to the grounds and to put on the next year's fair. In
So how
reality,
did you end up with 600,000 then? So you made some good money then.
there has been money that has been saved and we've been very
You
fiscally
received some
responsible.
grants also.
Yes,
That I
we
heard.
received
Our
some.
levy was 42,600.
42,600,
That's
okay.
taxpayer money.
If I could, that's exclusive of capital expenditure.
Okay.
So what I think Mo's getting at is we would like to understand why 42,600 in some ways is going to support your surplus.
Because you have an obligation. to pay that. You don't want to have an obligation, you don't want to pay the money, give us the fairground.
So the 42.6 would be the breakdown. Now, some of that is your obligation as far as water and sewer, I believe. Some is routine maintenance. Part of it would be this open class premium money.
The question, he's not actually asking which category does the 42,000 go into? He's asking, look, like Bayfield, as a moral question, why should the county pay $42,000 for a organization that's running a surplus? That's basically it. Like, as a matter of public policy, call it, why should the county be financing something like that? And I think the response is A, because you have to, and two, because
We have to, why is that? Why do we?
that's what the MOU says. You have
Yeah,
a
we
legal-
have to pay this, whether they have the money or not. Does it say that? Does it also say in there that if they have money, they pay towards this also?
No.
Oh, it doesn't.
No.
So they have no responsibility to pay for anything.
To come back to answer the question, the alternative is that they're operating at a loss. And then you have the same objection. You're like, why are we giving all this money to subsidize this organization that's running at a loss, you know? And the objection is just that they're like operating at on a profit, but a surplus. Then I'm like, if the county doesn't want to do that, then, and it wants to terminate its legal obligations to the society, then it can do that. It will need to get the fairground. Do you have a problem? It's almost like you have an objection with the fact that they're they're running a surplus.
I'm not opposed to that, but if they're a 501c3, do they not have to pay that down after a certain amount of time?
No.
They can keep a surplus forever.
Yeah, well, we're calling it a surplus. It's really a profit.
It's a
But you just can't distribute the profit. 501c3s, you can reinvest the money. You can just never take it out of the 501c3. Like as if this was an actual for-profit corporation, they can make a distribution to their membership. It could be like, we're paying a dividend.
So they can redistribute it back to the fair.
The actual membership, if it was a for-profit.
Okay, but it's not. So they can actually put that money back into.
That's all they can do.
repairs, or that's all they can use.
That's
it
all
for.
they can do.
So why wouldn't they use it for that instead of using county money?
Some of this money,
Why would they?
Why wouldn't, because it's everybody's money. So now the county makes you make 600,000, but you still take 40,000 from the rest of us again anyway. So you're getting double paid. So what are you gonna do with the money? Just sit and watch it grow? What if it's gonna be 2 million next year? Well, you're not gonna put the money back into the buildings and everything then. Why would you come and ask us for money? You already have it.
Because you have an obligation to pay.
Because current MOU says we will, but that doesn't mean that we can't.
Yeah.
When we get to
okay.
close, we can talk about how we feel about that. We can-
Sure, okay,
We can discuss that, you
sure,
know, as a group.
okay, because that just,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a nonprofit, they could do their budget whatever way. We have revenue from the county, we have revenue from the grant.
Okay.
Then they can decide where. That's part of the budget.
That's why I think that good business. plan.
can I just clarify where this money? 200,000 came as through, like, as an art. Because we did not have a fair in 2020. That's where 200,000 came. There is close to another 200,000 that we have squirreled away by being financial. We've had successful fairs, but we have saved that money to be used for the eventual building of a grandstand in what we came to you in 2016 with. And then there are other designated funds for use of improving the ape barn, improving the small animal barn, as to which, and I have written $200,000 grant, but we have smaller grants, $3,000, $4,000 that go to help improve those buildings. And that's what it is sitting there waiting for. We had $4,000 that we wanted to
So that's
use.
the transparency we don't have and don't know.
But
See what
you
I'm
do.
saying? We
You-
think, no,
you
we
do.
think all that money is you made it at the fair.
No, we
So
did
that we
not
should be
make,
spending it.
but
So we should know that you have 2,000 for this building, 3 you have grant.
that,
Are there strings attached to these grants?
they need to be used for the project that we applied for.
Okay.
So
So the 200,000, what was that applied? That
The
you
two-
received, the 200,000
that
grant.
was the ARPA funds.
What is that string attached to? What's on that one?
That one is, you can be, that does not have strings per se. That is sitting there, to the best of my knowledge. I have not read all the fine print on it, but that money was set aside.
So hopefully it isn't like the counties, you only
That
get
may
to
be for the loss, like the county
It
had.
is
lost.
for the
but you might have 2 years that you might have spend it or allocate it out, so you might want to redefine it. And some of our money was that way, it does have fine print that says you have till 2026 to spend it or lose it.
Okay,
This would be real clear, you know, when you talk about communication, this would be real clear back and forth. If you'd share your financial statement.
we did. You have
I
it.
don't- No,
It
we've
was
never seen
issued-
it.
Yeah, you see, that's,
No.
That's where we're at.
I will, because I got mine at the annual meeting, I'll make sure they
You
get
have
it.
it. And every month,
know,
there was
but
a treasurer's report that was given out, states where all of that money is.
Gets that, you get it, Mom? Or no? No,
Every,
That's why,
if
like,
you
I
would-
think we need that to really settle
I need
everybody
to,
down.
I need
where
to
all
find
this
out
money-
where that
so if
got lost.
But
Don't
if,
you
when
think?
when you came to a meeting, Steve, and you picked up the treasurer's report, all of that information was on there.
Yes,
And are
And
you
so,
expecting him to be
you know,
responsible?
I'm on both.
yeah, you're.
Okay, so it's your
So-
responsibility, not mine, to make sure that financial statement gets there. But I will, if it don't, if for some reason it breaks down somewhere, I will make sure this group gets that.
To the best of my knowledge, what was required of us was that you get a copy of our audited financial statement, which you do. You got one in right after our meeting on May 31st.
Which the committee didn't get that.
Well,
So
I
that's
guess if
right.
it's given to administration and not passed on to you, then
Yeah,
that's
that's
not on us.
Well, that's
Yeah,
all right.
that's not
I just
on
want to
us.
make sure it's getting
You
there.
gotta get it somewhere.
You get it. You get it. I have.
Let's resend that, please,
Okay,
so that we can get that out of the way.
and so you have our most current audited financial report.
Okay.
And that was the year 21 finished. Our fiscal year goes from November 1st to October 31st. The documents are at the auditors now for review. And then that usually comes out to us sometime in January or February. And then it would be given to you. We did comply with the CIP and with the budgeting request this last year. So if you are requiring a monthly treasurer's statement of us, then you need to request that of us. That has not ever been a request to this.
It's been a yearly one, so, yes.
Yes, and you.
Talk to this grant and where it's going, who donated to the Florida Small Animal Barn and all that.
Yeah.
We'll make sure, you resend it, you make sure we get it.
This whole conversation though brings me back to the point I think I made earlier, which is that you have to recognize, and I think keep, as you talk about this session, I want you to keep clear minds that from the society's point of view, we're meeting as equals. Like that we're coming to you and we're like, we're equals and we have this contract and you have an obligation to make these payments to the society. The fact that you're unhappy about that and that you're unhappy with the fact that the society is running a surplus doesn't change the relationship. It changes the way you feel as you write the check, because you're like, well, this is ridiculous because we're making all kinds of money and here I am just making a further contribution. But we're not a department. Like that's the sort of attitude that you would have if you were like superior to us and we're a department of the county and you're saying we're over, they're over budget and so we shouldn't be fine. Like even further funding because they have a lot in their budget already left over from the previous year. But we're meeting as equals, certainly from society's point of view, this is money we're obligated to pay to them as opposed to us. Now, it may be that we're willing to say, we'll waive the premium exhibit fees as a sign of good faith. I don't know that. That may be something that society is willing to do. But if they
I'm not
do,
looking to waive it, I'm looking for a business plan. If there's a lot of extra money, you don't have to take that 40,000 out of the coffers of the whole company.
yeah, but you're not entitled to that.
But the thing is.
Entitlement is whatever, every department, we have departments at $6 million, sheriff, 8 million. Boom, they go through the same thing, but if they have extra, we don't say, here's another check for $1 million, go out wasted.
But that's my,
People would love that,
but that's precisely my problem. We're not a department.
but you are. So you have to go by our rules and policies, so basically you kind of are.
We don't have to go there. We have our own, we have an agreement.
That's why we have an agreement that says you go by our purchase policies and things, so it's.
Where's that agreement? That's not, the current agreement is one from 2003.
But all these are, they are.
I'd like to move on so that we get something done. This,
That
okay?
kind of argument is, yeah.
Purchasing policies and everything, they have to go by
I
ours.
know, I understand all that, but I mean, it's not going to make an MOU be functional.
Oh, yes, yeah, we have to have it that way.
Well,
Like
we-
Leah said, legally, we have to do something.
Can I just say something about this fundraising piece? Coming from the nonprofit sector, I don't want to sending the message to any of our friends of, or the fairgrounds, that we don't want them out hustling grants. I think the breakdown is that we don't know what that money's for. And so Kim's saying, if you got a bunch of money there that's not really clear, and in my mind, I'm going, well, that's all allocated because you wrote a grant to the John Deere Foundation. They're gonna feed that barn, but we don't know that. So we know that.
That is, and they have never requested that information. So,
Well, err on the side of more transparency
hey,
and
that
that'll.
is, and that I am perfectly happy with that. Because
Kim, yeah.
as a person who spends countless hours of time writing these grants, and then to kind of have them be bashed upside the head.
No.
It doesn't make me want to,
No, and we don't
and
want
I
that
would prefer
message.
to be transparent than not.
I mean, there was you guys came to us in September saying you had a grant that you had to spend on the concrete for the farm by the end of the year and stuff. It was 25,000 or something you guys had to spend, and
It's $4,000.
4,000. Did that project get done?
No, because you put it where on hold, so that money.
No, we gave the go ahead when we met out there with that. If you can get it done, go ahead, get it done as fast as possible. We met on the ground.
I understand. If you can get that done for 25,000, get it done.
There's nothing but on hold.
Remember us saying that.
We met on site with that. You guys run with it if you guys can get it done.
We were amazed that you could begin to even.
Get that concrete in there, but yeah.
It was only, I mean, you'd have something.
Okay, that is not, that's not our takeaway from that meeting.
Well,
We walked away, started to get it done, go.
When I
We gave you the blessing to get.
I was there for that, but I think you can.
That's where a lot of those grants and things are so time limited that way.
They are time limited,
And there's strings attached, like the ARPA money is terrible, that you'd have to be careful because you think you're holding on to money. Boom, all of a sudden they'll say, hey,
yes,
you get to send
okay.
it back.
So, that was fully not, I didn't hear that, and I was at that meeting. So,
It's fairly clear. I don't know how much clear is.
Well,
You got to go ahead, you get it done, you go.
that still stands,
well,
you know.
we thought we were abiding by your wishes, that you were going to bid it out and you were going to do the
Never
work.
said we're gonna bid it out.
That may come back to you and I getting together and hammering some of this out with the intention of being as transparent as we can. Now, we will move ahead with that, whether or not we can get that done in the next 18 days. I don't know,
No,
probably not, but we can move ahead with it in the spring, whether or not.
the grant money, to the best of my knowledge, they have been, if that it could be rolled over, and not have to be repaid back for $4,000. The rest of it has been fundraised for a period of 10 years and is sitting there for that use.
Right. The 2023 budgeted CIP items, I'll bid out.
And we need to have a discussion about sound system stuff too, because there's grant money and there's other money. Discussion points.
Sure. Okay, so 18 is the next one that I have a question on. It reads exactly the same on both sides, but it has been a long time request from the county to have a business plan. And I think it's important to have some kind of a business plan that you update annually. So
I'm only speaking personally. I have no objection to that. I think if that has been a sticking point, I think we can either do it internally or contract with somebody else to help us do that.
I'd contract with somebody to get it up and running, and then all you gotta do is update it. I mean, if you contract with somebody to make a business plan for you, I think you're gonna need it for further negotiations with the city as well, so why not get it done? So I wanted to add to your version, business plan language. With the society, let's say the society agrees to provide an annual business plan. I think that would clear up a lot of stuff. There's just been a lot of, we've just never gotten nothing that way, and I think it'd be beneficial to both.
Right, but obviously, we give you the audited copy of our financial statement and nobody knows where it goes. So.
Well, we'll certainly clear up that channel.
And therein lies some of the problem as to why we're at where we are today.
But that's not a business plan.
So it's not a
two of
business
those
plan,
could be in
and
the
we
same
can
project.
work on that.
Yep.
I.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be required to have one anyway for the city and the additional use permit and that type of stuff, so. It's just a suggestion I'm making. We'll give this to Malia and she'll wordsmith it and then agree or disagree or whatever. We move on. At least we're getting something done. So. Let's see.
21. That user fee, I don't know if that has to be in there or not.
That is what we removed.
You did
Right.
remove,
We
okay,
removed it.
you removed it, okay.
Yeah. So
You added the user fee for the new grandstand is optional. This fee will be turned over to the county.
That was,
Teaching language.
that is what we did. We took this out. We took back the half of the
rentals.
winter storage, because that was being put aside for grandstand. And we put in that statement as county user fee if the county deemed that they needed something, when and if the grandstand was built, that. Because then the people who are attending those events would know that it was going to the county for them to be able to utilize that structure that the county had built. It was just a little more transparency that way. There are some in our organization that don't like user fees at all. So I guess it definitely would be a discussion point, but at least it was an open and transparent fee for a specific item.
All right, and 20, a special assessment, what do we think a special assessment is going to be? I guess I read that line, just didn't understand what special assessment.
Well, I think that means like if the city of St. Clair Falls was to put a curb and gutter and then that'd be a special assessment.
Oh,
And they're facing that issue on their
on that side,
west.
west side, all
They want
right,
to redo that road.
okay.
I think that's
The
reasonable.
landowner.
That's a landowner thing anyway.
So that is,
What's that
Sorry.
have to do with?
just basically stating that if there is a special assessment,
That's fair. Assessments, but. you
that's a
get-
given, I know.
The owner of the property is.
That was.
This makes it
That
for
was
sure.
getting taken care of with the.
Yeah.
This kind of clarifies it.
At one point.
This clarifies it, that if there is one, that we have to do it, yeah, for the county,
As the property owner.
as the property owner, yeah. That just doesn't,
I think it was also in the original MOU, 2003, but think they just
I think that was
roll
rolled
forward.
safe.
Yeah.
It's,
And if we go with your paragraph on 21, really open-ended then on what that fee would be. Doesn't
Or
set,
if one,
set an amount, doesn't.
The
Do anything.
one we proposed back for use when and if the grandstand is built.
Yes, it doesn't have
Or
a,
did you take it out?
Well, no, it was still in your draft.
Yeah,
The same language.
it's still in there.
It's still in what Rory did, the group at the Fair Society, the Fair Board will probably weigh in on that, and I don't know if, as I stated earlier, it was a specific and transparent fee for a specific thing.
So maybe on 21, the Fair Society, that a shall collect the user may collect, then it's kind of open-ended, it might never collect it or anything.
It may, if-
So if we do may instead of shall, it still could be in here,
because it would have to be determined by sitting down and negotiating again.
yeah, and the amount, but I mean, instead of the
shall,
word shall, put may in there, because it may not happen.
That,
you know,
that is correct.
Would that help? I think both of us,
I think
because there's no amount or anything, so it might be
You don't mean you're
10
21.
cents.
which
Whatever.
21 you're talking about?
Yeah, are you talking you're 21 or our 21?
Which one do you work on?
I'm making all my corrections on to
I'm on
the Fair Society.
Fair.
That's
I'm
what
on that
I'm
one,
gonna
yeah.
give to Malia.
The first draft submitted by the society is what I'm going on, that 21, where it says the Fair Society shall collect the county user. I put, if we take the Fair Society may collect the county user fee to be determined once the grandstand is operational, fee will be turned over to Polk County. So with the word may in there, it may never happen.
You had it, I mean, you had that in yours, but not for where.
Yeah, I don't.
I think you had, it was in yours here.
It's in there, but I don't know under what.
Would that be better that we put the word may, so it may never happen?
I think that's fine.
Then if somebody's against user fees, you still, it isn't, you don't
Not
have to
required.
do it,
It's not required.
but it's in here.
It's still the society's position that they're gonna contribute some money to the grandstand.
It hasn't been discussed because it hasn't moved. The money is sitting there for that.
This fee will be determined. This fee will be determined by the cooperative.
Correct, and
Monies
that,
that go back and
the
forth.
intent of putting that in there was so that people would know that money was going right back to Polk County for building that grants.
Sure.
I mean, it didn't come into our fund. It goes to you, the county, if you deem that you want money back.
To pay for it, correct?
Yes.
All right. But now, if you do have funds set aside for the grandstand already, do they have to go toward it? I mean, is that the way it's?
You know, I could give you my-
Finances set up,
There's money set aside it's called grandstand fund. There have been.
so you would have to spend it on a grandstand. I mean, according to how your business plan
Good
works.
faith, I would believe we would, but
I don't know how your financials, but I mean, if you go and have money for this as a nonprofit, it would have to go towards what you earmark it for.
If
Is
it's
that
a
correct?
grant written to a foundation.
If a grant, or if you collect money
grandstand,
for something, does it not have to go there?
It does,
Okay.
if it's earmarked, but I don't know what.
So if you have a fund that says that, you probably have to use it for that type of thing.
We go.
I mean, I'm-
If the money came from a place that didn't say you have to use it for the fairground grandstand, but they earmarked it,
Right.
you wouldn't necessarily have.
But say they had a place at the fair, they're collecting money for a grandstand.
Oh, then,
Yes,
yeah.
that money has to
That
go
money
toward the.
has to go toward
We
it.
did that. There's been memorial money and people have given money specific to the grandstand.
Okay.
So,
So that would probably take that fee away. So that's why the word may in there would help.
so, and there was surplus lumber from the old grandstand was sold. That is in the fund.
Okay,
And then half of our winter storage or half, 2/3. And each year has been going into that fund.
that fun.
So
Okay.
that is all, I certainly believe that that's where it goes. When a grandstand is built, that is
Okay.
used
So
for
that's
some
something
part of the
Mo would
grandstand.
have to know because we'd get prices and stuff, we'd have to know that where that money is.
And that
We have
is,
to bid and get,
that
yeah.
is laid out on the treasurer's report.
Okay.
So that's beyond this. An MOU.
Oh, well, that grandstand's in here. so
I know,
it's-
but I mean, the actual budget of what it what's applied.
Yeah. That's whatever, yeah, but I mean, we still have to, it's in here, so we better talk about it. Okay. All right. We're down to insurance stuff.
Yeah, insurance stuff reads all the same.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of difference in the miscellaneous under number 4. Under number 4. Their version added. They added this verbiage that says the county contributions as laid out in the 2018 County Board of Supervisors meeting. Now,
Where are you seeing that?
Miscellaneous.
miscellaneous number 4
I thought
here.
you were on-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, insurance read all the same.
What was this hockey agreement? I remember the discussion on that.
I think that's something that
They pay
Leah's
separate.
gonna have to
Look at.
look at your agreement with the hockey association and make sure, you're gonna have to
And
look
we,
at that and see.
we had, there was, I'm thinking that prior, they used to just go over us and talk to Jeff Hugie. They may have spoken to Maria, I am not sure, because at one point, the original agreement said no permanent structure. And they wanted to build permanent structures, so
Oh.
I know that at some point, they just went right over us and went right to the county. Who talked to them, what they agreed upon, what they discussed, we were never privy to.
We'll have to find that out.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll make a note here for Leah to
To check.
research that. But, Mo, correct me if I'm wrong now. Yeah, the numbers that were talked about in the October 2018 board meeting are probably not the numbers that are gonna be used today.
Correct.
Because those were the large grandstand, the double pulling track.
The double pulling track.
So
and this
that
would be-
verbiage, if you go back to that number, we don't know what the number is for the same size or slightly larger grandstand. So the numbers in that meeting are not.
expect. I mean, that,
So we need to strike that though, because we don't wanna by this agreement, get locked in the numbers that are wrong.
correct, and we don't want you to, I mean,
So we just need to strike
Yeah,
that.
many things. That was put back in our draft back to you to specify that the grandstand was separate from anything else we were agreeing to in 2020.
In 2020, correct, okay.
Okay.
Many things have changed since then, but
And number 5, too. It's agreement on 2020, and every 5 years thereafter. I think it's good. Was January 2020 is gone.
Well, don't take the whole thing out. We could take out January 2020, but then if we want to change it 1 year, we should change it 1 year.
Yeah, I'll just have her add the right date.
The dates can go 1 year. I don't think we should wait 5 years.
but you want to review the MOU every year.
Well, I think both parties would be an advantage to that. Might be
Most
some
of our
changes you
reviews
wanna
are
make.
pretty short and sweet. It's, did anything happen? No, boom, boom, boom.
Okay, and I don't have a problem. It had been 5 years, it had been whatever.
We did what, 4 or 6 of them today, pretty much. They go pretty. It's just if anything major does happen, I guess we're on it. We don't wait 5 years to boil down to this again. You know,
Then you're not talking about reviewing the MOU, you're talking about reviewing the relationship, what's happened in the last year, right?
the agreement, no, shall be visited, this agreement. The MOU, once a year, not wait 5 for something like this to happen.
So that was
It
basically,
happened in 5 years.
You know, for transparency, because the financials always become an issue, you know, I mean, there's a difference between getting an audit report and getting your treasurer's report monthly. You know, I don't know if the board wants to see, like that monthly treasurer's report just
No.
passed on to them. Because the audit report lists things a little different than maybe the board wants to look at. So
We just want the audit.
if you only want the
End of the
audit, that's
year,
great. If
yeah.
you want the treasurer's report, then they just need to know what the, for the treasurer's report.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to tell, you know, we're going by what we were told before, and that is
The audit.
financial review gets given to you and the budget and whatever else. And your request. So if you want to change it, then you need to tell us.
The board needs to change, the
Yes.
committee, if what the committee wants to see, if they want to
Yeah,
see
to
the audit report and the monthly treasurer's report to see how it's trending or what money's being spent where? Or do they just want to see the audit report on how the last year went?
I think we want to see audit because they're the managers. It would be their audit, their
And
business.
Just so they're-
Like, you know, yeah.
let's tread carefully with the words need and shall. If you guys would like something, let us know. Just, I mean, ask us, say, hey, can we get, and we can say, we don't have that now, but we will get it to you as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I think we're fine with that. We're not attempting to hold anything back or hide anything. If you'd like to see monthly stuff, let us know. If you're fine.
That's too much busy work. And
Exactly.
we don't want to micromanage because you are the managers and the youth.
And if you'd like to
So I
see a
think we
yearly
should
thing,
See that.
send us let us know.
Yeah.
And we will provide that as soon as we can. I think we're good with that.
Yeah, or if you want a snapshot after the fair, tells us profit and loss, their goal.
Unless something desperate happens or something needed, like some of the other units, we go like every 6 months. It just, is there a huge trend or if something happens? Or the rumor mill starts again or something, then maybe we'd have to check.
And we
it.
are open to that. It would have been a lot better to give you information.
Well, to see that, to know where then all the
And to-
grants in their earmark is great to see, because if we don't know that, we just see a dollar amount and wonder, why do you want them? So I mean, that's huge right there. I think that'll get us over a big hump right there.
All right, so we pretty much went over the two agreements then. Just like I thought, there's about 6 paragraphs that had some concern. But now we have to deal with the agreement brought forward by Lori here. And, if there's
No, I don't-
anything in this agreement that you feel strongly needs to be talked about today, this is the time, I think.
I mean,
Correct me if
insofar
I'm
as
wrong, Marie.
my agreement yesterday is objectionable, blame me, don't blame them, right? Because I was pulling from several sources, the old MOU, redraft from August of last year, and some comments that they provided to me about what their preferences were. But I'm not going to pretend like I didn't make mistakes when I may have like improperly stated something. So, I mean, I'm happy to go through it, but maybe it makes more sense for us in light of conversations we've had today and what Malia's heard. We've now provided a couple of iterations of drafts from our point of view. And maybe if Malia takes either August 2020 agreement that we had previously sent or my draft from yesterday and redrafts, it probably makes more sense to the August 2020 draft in light of what we talked about today. And then we can come back and see, are we any farther forward? Are we close to, something that's sort of mutually agreeable? I think you guys need to talk anyway about, probably in closed session, about the payments that are getting made to the Fair Society, what you want to do about those.
And I have been listening and taking notes on sort of what,
Because it should.
I've got a
Should
marked
be
up
it.
copy for you, Malia, too.
okay. No, and I've been taking notes, so
Because here's your.
Well, I
So,
think.
we can say you always are.
I'm here.
Up with something that's gonna replace. it.
Right.
And that, I think,
Last
we
page.
can return these to something else.
Yeah, I
That's
think,
You marked yours.
totally unacceptable.
I think
Okay.
Steve facilitated process here is what we should build the draft on.
Correct.
I agree.
That's what.
And then not even go,
So we can compare
No,
notes, Malia, I made notes as we went.
Okay, and then, so are we, maybe I'm jumping ahead, are we gonna set a time frame for this that we are all hearing and all agreeing apart about what's going to take place and when?
let's do this at our next executive committee.
In January.
We had, I don't know if anyone
The
remembers.
22nd, we had an
Yeah.
option, but I think we should have a little more time.
Okay.
Because I want to see some of the audit paper, I don't want to get it the same day and have to do this.
Yeah, no.
Rather than mark it up so bad that we can't read it.
So then,
I mean, spend your time.
okay, so Malia's.
You don't know what I was thinking of that, Mark.
Malia's going to rewrite.
Your,
And that's going to go to Rory, then to us. And do we have a time frame on that?
Our next executive committee, if we.
I know, we want to get these out.
Just so
Malia-
you're aware, I am not available for the January executive.
But I'm saying, how about the document? Can you get it out, say in 2 weeks, so that we have that 2, 3 weeks to read it to everyone?
I will get it to Rory.
Because we're looking at Christmas.
Yeah.
Malia's not available for
Yeah.
January. Let's say that by mid-January, January 15th, whatever, and I don't know what that date is, but mid-January, let's get copies to all of us that we can take a look at. And then let's talk about getting back together for the February executive.
Which would be the 7th,
February 7th.
I think.
If
Is that right, Don? You
Probably.
confirm, it's the first
But I
Tuesday,
think if we can
right?
get some of these documents this early, we have more time to look
Yes,
at them.
please.
You know, and wordsmith it, if we think, take the word shall, may, and move them around.
I have a conflict with 7.
You do?
Mhm.
Well, then
You're in
it'll get
Ireland.
done fast, so we'll have it on the 7th.
I'm actually here. I'm just in work.
You're
So,
just on the other side of the wall.
yeah, I can do the afternoon or the 7th.
I don't know how that works with Ross, because he obviously had
Yeah.
work today.
Yeah.
But we can pick a number, pick a date and time around, and we'll run it by everybody.
If you'd like to get together at a different time, so maybe not for the 7th, you want to do it the 5th or the 9th. Whatever works for you guys, let us know and see if we can't work around
We have
that.
to work around the other committee meetings and stuff that week, so, and staff, so we.
What about this February 6th? Let's not let them go yet, because Rory has a problem.
I think that is environmental services in the morning on the 6th.
Oh, February 6th is a Monday.
Well,
Oh,
we need the administrator on for the schedule.
Wait, hold on. Let me pull up the calendar. Isn't the executive committee in February actually on the 9th?
Try it on the 9th, unfortunately.
Okay, Rory can do the 6th. What do you think of that, Malia?
We don't have any committee meetings on the 6th.
That Monday,
The 6th would work for me.
let's.
That could be considered our executive committee for the month then too, right?
Let's do it one day earlier.
We're talking about the 6th of February, the Monday.
Yeah.
The executive committee meetings on the 9th.
Right.
We're doing the 9th to the 6th. Everybody's clear? Are we gonna start it at 8:30? We're gonna start it
7:30.
at
Start it so we have such a gap. Start, can we, I don't know what our agenda is, but we could probably use half an hour less. So we could start at 9 and meet with them at 10.
Are we doing the regular executive business meeting as well?
Yeah, so we
Correct.
do that from
proposal, yes, Leah.
8:30 to 9:30, then
Great,
start
yeah.
with them at 10.
Wouldn't make sense to have an extra meeting. That we can get it.
Or no, start at 9. I'm sorry, start executive at 9 to,
An hour, 9 to 10.
I don't know what's on our agenda, but we don't need that much time again today.
It's gonna be probably a pretty light agenda, I would anticipate.
So can we say 9:30 and meet with them at 10? What do you think? Half an hour agenda for.
9:30. Let's get it spread out.
No,
Too late.
I'm tightening it down. They can't start until 10. I'm saying come at 9:30.
You can't start till 10.
With this much notice, I can be here, but
9:30.
I can be here by 9.
Oh.
Just for you.
We do a regular meeting at 8:30
8:30.
and 9 o'clock. we'll
9
be
o'clock.
ready to roll.
There we go.
Okay.
Just so this is all heard by everybody, we're starting here on February 6th, which is a Monday at 9
Just
a.m.
be careful. The meeting might be in the other building, might be ready. Our
Yeah.
meetings might be in the other building.
Pay attention to the agenda.
Government center.
Pull
Would
the
they,
pull the
you think
agenda.
by February?
That is fine.
So so the meeting will be across by February, that room will be ready. So we will be in the other building.
That is fine. I'm just.
So we all know.
I know.
They flip flop
I know.
with the time this time. We were unaware of.
Okay, so we're meeting at 8:30?
Yeah, our normal time.
Yeah.
And
So
then
8:30.
you'll show up at night.
Done hopefully by 9 or 9:15 somewhere. in
Yeah, to be ready, and I think.
there. Malia, is it proper for us to talk about the grandstand at all in this meeting?
I mean, the only thing that's noticed is the MOU. If you're just talking about ideas and not making any decisions, I think it's fine because it is, a part of the fair and it's a big part of the reason why,
Yeah, I'd like for us to at least discuss, number one, where we're at, or two, if it's gonna be redesigned, who's gonna pay for redesigning it this time? Or, you know, where we're at with the design. I know at the last meeting, you people talked about you need somebody that done these things. Built grandstands.
It's, well, it's the same group that we have used the
Sure.
entire time.
We're under contract with Cedar Corp for the design of the grandstand.
But wasn't there another group that,
The actual grandstand itself was the person who we were getting the bids from and giving
GT grandstands.
GT grandstand, and they just constructed the grandstand at the Union High School. So,
okay. So you mean one of the bleachers?
yes.
Uh,
So I think.
so we can't use that group then, Mo, because we're under contract with
Still under
Cedar.
contract with
Cedar
Cedar. Cedar would let us
to
out.
use them.
But Cedar Corps doesn't actually build the structure. Correct?
Correct.
They're just prepping.
Their design,
Their
their
design.
engineer,
and
they're the
then-
engineer part,
Then they contract with somebody else. to-
correct, and then they oversee.
It goes out, it'd go out for bids and GT could bid on the project.
Okay, so Mo, we paid Cedar Corp so far just to design the other one, right? What, 70?
$90,000.
So where are we at as a joint group here as far as going forward? Do you feel that we need to pay the design for the new grandstand, or should it be shared because of the change that occurred? There
Recognize
drastic
they
change.
may not be able to answer on behalf of the society. I don't know that. Maybe you can. Okay, but they may not be able to say.
Say that as three individuals.
I'm just saying,
Somebody has the checkbook. That's
I'm just saying, you know,
That's a
we're-
good question. I can help with it. Oh, yeah, if he had the checkbook, that's who he'd have.
I think it would be probably good if Mo got the estimate.
Let's see.
The estimate to estimate the new size. You know,
Well,
so
St.
that
Croix
you have
Falls
some
is-
kind of a number.
Are they letting you put it in the same
Yeah, they
footprint?
will.
Yes.
They will.
And they will permit it for that.
Yes.
Well, the small.
So we have to look at the permit fees and some of that stuff to fit in there to make sure.
Well, they said that we could put it there. The fees are just part of the deal. You know,
Well,
but-
we want the permit because they could say yes, but if they get the permit, it's a different thing sometimes.
And this is putting it in the original location, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's what you want, right? We're all clear, we want the original location, St. Croix Falls is on site. So
That's our biggest thing. If we need a variance or anything, I think not, but I think.
We do not. I got an email from the administrator. You can go where. it's-
Joel?
Yep.
Okay, so we got to deal with the same guy because if they get somebody new in there, they'll say no.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
so then we're looking
That
for
happens already. Yeah.
an estimate from Cedar for, what did I say? Yeah, basically, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, for the original location for design, right?
Right. I assume it would be a similar design, only downsized. Similar construction.
I'll have them go off the aerial, off the old grandstand,
Maybe
maybe the
that-
size and everything for it.
Maybe they can downsize the cost some, being it's smaller. I mean, I know it's gonna be less, but maybe.
Also done some of the work already, right? Like the site review or
Site
whatever.
prep review was done by Cedar. They did some soil boring. Did we not?
Yeah, soil borings have been done on that location.
Yeah.
So, I mean-
Boy, some of it's been done.
We don't at least talk about it, we ain't getting nowhere. You know, maybe your group should talk about, once we get this estimate, being the change came from your side. Should we share, get this thing going, get it on the ground? Or do you say no, your deal,
Uh,
or we say no?
I think it makes sense to at least find out, do we agree or disagree?
Yeah, get something done, because we're just not getting nowhere.
Design or whatever, too, because if you want.
I
Underneath.
I just don't know that this committee can bind the county, right? I think it would have to go to the full county board.
I don't think anyone's bound by anything.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're gonna bind anything.
Okay,
I think you should say,
I'm
this
just
is a
saying
good
that we
idea.
should at least discuss it back
Yeah.
and forth. And if we come up with something mutual, then we take it to the county.
Yeah.
Or to you to write up.
We already have we not have a resolution.
But it's not the right number.
No.
Well,
But we
just
do have a
change it and
resolution that the numbers have to be
Update that
fixed.
resolution. Yeah, let's just.
We could look that resolution up. We should.
That's a different project though.
It was for the big one?
It's just a grandstand now. The other one was a double track,
Oh,
NPA double track
Yeah,
with the
okay.
site prep, parking lot, lighting, water infrastructure, meter pits,
yeah, okay.
and redo of Simonson Street in conjunction with,
Yeah, so it was this kind of.
the city.
All right, so it's
It's
basically.
substantially downsized.
That one.
Was all that in the original resolution though?
It was in the original project that was approved for.
Dollar amount.
The dollar amount that was,
But we can't go by that dollar amount. You know, that much, yeah. There'll be site prep, I mean, it's not even close to the same amount of works.
Which will be easier for the board to support, but.
I just wanted to discuss it at least and see.
it is, and obviously from our standpoint, there is money that has been set aside. And how that money gets spent, or would decide how to start to spend that grant and money moving forward.
The earmark money, you guys.
Earmark
get
money,
to decide,
whether it's
'cause you might
to
want
use-
storage underneath or
Yes.
something like that. That
It might be for finishing projects, they might have preference for versus starting projects. Either
Yeah.
or, it's a discussion point, there's money there to be used, how it's allocated will have to be.
Right, and that's the mutual discussion that can happen. No, this is what will work for a grandstand, but now you say, no, we want storage under it. So, you know. At least, so we got an idea what the next one costs. But I don't know. Jay, do we have to prove him to spend the money to get that through public works then?
What, to start the
Well, I mean,
estimate process?
if we tell Mo to go get this estimate right away, they're gonna want to be paid. Right, Mo?
No,
Yeah, they won't get paid. At some point, they're gonna want their.
Because they're gonna want to get paid.
but we
So
have,
at least see the-
they're under contract
You're not
already.
committing it.
They're already under contract, or we are with them. So I mean, they should just,
But they've already designed what we
Yeah.
requested them to design. Now we're requesting them to design something totally different.
sure.
So they're gonna want to be paid.
I'm just gonna get them an estimate, though, we're talking probably about $1,500, $2,000 or something, $3,000 at the
Oh, then-
most, just an estimate. I'm
Yeah.
not having them design anything. Just the.
You're gonna have to go forward.
Yeah, then
We
we
gotta
can,
get it moving.
then we can go, yeah.
Okay, are we out of bounds at all, Malia?
No. No, I think you're all right.
Anything else you people want to discuss before we? I guess I got one thing. Do you notify the board that they can listen in on this meeting? I didn't. They can zoom in. They can zoom in and
We have
watch this.
talked about that at board meetings, we have, obviously, we can tell them all now that they can listen to this meeting in 2 days or however long it takes you to get it archived and put out there for people to view. So,
Yeah, I think
we can certainly do that.
we should do that because then your whole board
Yeah, good
will get
idea.
on the whole thing and they can watch the live meeting.
Good idea.
They can just get on Zoom and watch the live meeting. Claire, how many people we got on watching? So there's 3 on there now. It would be good if your
It
board
would
members
be
can,
Very good. for them
yeah,
to
I
see
mean, that way,
If we can stay in the closed sessions, I think it works better too. You know, until we get down to the nitty gritty, if we think we can do most of this. I think. I mean, it works good that way, not good.
Then there's less room, for
For rumors.
That
Is
is
there?
what that is.
Or interpretation.
Or interpretation. That is
Yes.
because unfortunately, a lot of that goes on and transparency and communication go much further in getting.
Yes. And we would get with Malia or Joe, whichever one here would tell us. If we're.
anybody got anything else to add?
I don't.
Okay.
So we're clear on dates and time. We're clear on that Malia is getting something to Rory
Okay.
for us to review.
I'll send it to you guys when I get it. And I think the administration's gonna look into whether or not you receive the financial statements.
Yes.
I was gonna
So
get an estimate from Peter. That's
And
it.
so if you are requesting other financial information, or if it can't be found, please let us know so we can get it to you so that you have it and can view it.
Then make sure you hit me on your, on my county email address, anything you send to them, I get. That way I know it got sent. Look at the names on the list that got sent. As a representative,
And the intention on the draft is just to put together what tentative agreements were reached arguably today. But this draft is not going to be an offer, so it's not like the Fair Society or the committee can go, okay, now we have this drafted and we're signing it, right? We're coming back then in February to continue the discussion, right?
Correct. He's almost got time to chip it out in stone.
Well, there's sometimes things are obviously misunderstood or miscommunicated, and I'm sorry, but I wanted, so we all.
Well, the
understand.
good thing is I'd like to see it at least 2 weeks ahead. We, if everybody can get it minimum 2 weeks ahead, we're not sitting up till midnight reading it, or like me, who's sitting here just painting the whole thing in 20 minutes. So if everybody can get that ahead, then we can answer some of these questions without guessing. Is my hope.
In your discussion with Cedar Corps, if they require $1,500 for a new estimate of an estimate, let us know. I am sure that we as a board will be fine with saying, that's not all on you. Let us know and let's work on that together.
and I'm not sure that we ever decided then how many seats were gonna be in that grandstand. Gonna be the same amount that was in it when it was old.
One of the same footprint.
If it's going in the same footprint,
It is what it is.
I'm sure it's going to be similar to a 1,500 seat grandstand. It'll be about the same size. I'm not looking at going down, and I am certainly not looking at going up at all. I don't know that Polk County needs any bigger than a 1,500 seat grandstand.
And that needs the PA system, handicap accessibility. There's no restrooms in there though, right?
No.
No,
Storage underneath.
was a discussion point for back and forth originally, and I guess
An original one was that with a cover.
With a cover.
No, we started with it being covered also.
some kind people be out of the sun. I've heard that multiple times. So I guess that, and then obviously it would be laid out so that additional things, social garden, those kinds of things could be refigured, reworked to make it safer. And if, as we've done in the past, if additional sets of our bleachers need to be added, then they're moved and added for additional.
Social garden.
We're trying to be polite.
It is, and there.
So it is moving good because this started in 2004. The new grants. Go back.
Well, I think there's discussion. It was condemned after the fair in 20.
Yeah, but it started in 2004 with the studies.
I think we made more progress on it the last time.
So I first got on the board, that was one of the big things that we needed was a new grandstand. So, and there it is.
Anything else? Or we get entertaining?
I would say, besides the CUP, it would have been built in 2021.
Yeah. In the wrong spot with, yeah.
I'm not sure that didn't work out for the better on the phone.
I think so too.
Anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Ready?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded.
He was holding
Adjourn, we
out.
stand adjourned. Thank you.